Welcome to the Foul Play YouTube channel, Reading with the Crew.
Thank you so much, Jack61. Thank you for that nice, warm introduction, and a warm welcome to everyone. And thank you so much for joining us today. It's great to be here. Welcome to our podcast. Guys, today you're in for a real treat. As you know, we're going to be continuing our series, Reading with the Crew series today. And we're going to deep dive like you've never seen before. Again, guys, welcome. But before I start the podcast, I'd like to introduce our esteemed panel who show up every week. It's fantastic that they're here. I'd like to introduce Neverly. How are you going, Neverly?
Hello, Dr. Silkman. Hello, panel, and everybody in the chat. I'm doing great. The summer has arrived officially in California, and it's a beautiful day here in Beverly Hills.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Neverly. And next we have Andy B. Andy B, how are you coming along? Oh, I think you might be muted. I think Andy B's muted. Yep. We'll get back to Andy B. Next we have I don't recall. How are you coming along?
I'm doing well. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Reading with the Crew.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't recall. And next we have Susan. Susan, good to see you here. How are you coming along?
Hey, Doc, I'm doing great. Happy Sunday to you and everybody down under, and happy Saturday to everybody else.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan. And next we have Jack61. Jack61, how are you coming along?
Doing very well. Thank you very much, Doc. And hello to all my panel members and all the people in live chat. Should be a interesting podcast today.
Yes, it should be. Thank you so much, Jack61. Well, look, guys, welcome. I'm not sure if Andy B's got his microphone switched on, but we'll get back to Andy B soon. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Silkman, and I'm from the Foul Play team. What we're going to do is we're going to make a start so we don't waste any time. The only thing that we do request, guys, is please be civil to each other, show respect. Remember, if you have a favorite theory or hypothesis, hey, bring it to Discord. We'd love to hear it, right? So please be civil to each other. And as Jack61 has put up on the screen, we do this for Teresa Halbach, for her memory and for justice for Teresa Halbach, to find out what happened that terrible day. And also we want to see justice for both Brendan and Stephen, who we believe they didn't receive a fair trial, and we do believe in their innocence. However, as we've always said on our podcast series, we follow the evidence where it takes us, good, bad, or otherwise. And the purpose of doing these podcasts is to basically dissect in great detail what happened that horrible day. So, Jack61, without further ado, are we able to have a look at the very first slide, the opening slide? And Susan, would you like to call out who's joined us in chat and to welcome everyone?
I sure will, Doc.
Awesome.
Let's see. I see Mystic Jinx is in chat. Dark Side of the Moon. J Jax is in there too. Jazznaz Gaming. Double D. Angie Dickinson. Neverly Darlin. A Blue is with us. Rhonda SD. And DB. Let's see. Gloria. Bethany. Pete Moss. Graham Moss. Anthony
Awesome.
Hills. JD, Double D. I might be repeating on some of those. That's what I see so far, Doc. Charlotte Dowling, Clive Coolidge.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Your support means a lot to us. All right, let's make a start, guys. Let's don't muck around here because we have a lot to cover. Again, guys, what we're doing here in the series, we're doing the Reading with the Crew podcast. And what we're doing is that we're reading selective passages from John Ferak's book, The Wrecking Crew. And we're on episode 36 at the moment, if you have been following the series. And all of us from the Foul Play team want to thank you so much, guys, for your support. We get a lot of really good response with the Reading with the Crew, also with Open Mic, of course. And we read all your comments. We try and answer your questions as soon as possible. So we're on episode 36. And what we're doing is we're reading from chapter 14, entitled Canine Noses. And today we're doing part 13. Now, we have expanded this chapter quite a lot, and we have done a lot of focus on Pam Sturm. Both her and her daughter, Nicole, found the RAV4 on the Avery salvage yard. And we've devoted a lot of time to this because the finding of the RAV4 was quintessential to getting the ball rolling against Stephen Avery. And what we're going to be doing today, we're going to really deep dive. And I'll tell you what, some of the stuff that we found is quite shocking. So some of the things that we're going to address today, guys, we're going to ask the big question. Was the RAV4 actually illegally seized by law enforcement on November the 5th? That's a really, really big question. We're also going to deep dive into the November the 5th search warrant. And what I didn't realize is that particular search warrant was written by Wiegert and co-written by Remaker, right? I wasn't aware of this, which is very, very intriguing. And finally, time permits, we're going to have a look at the links, any possible links between law enforcement, Ryan Hilligus, and Pam Sturm. And I think you're going to find things that are actually quite shocking, right? So guys, again, if you like what we do, please subscribe, put your DNA on the thumbs up button, and share our podcast, right? Share it, social media, wherever you can. The more people that can watch our podcast, the better. And guys, finally, don't forget to hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on all our podcasts that we do with the Foul Play team. And look, guys, I tell you what, be very interesting for those who are in chat. Just tell us where you're from, the country that you're from. I know that most of my fellow panel members are either from the US, some from England, and I'm from Adelaide, South Australia. So place down in chat where you're from. It would be great to see where you're all from. Thank you so much. Unless there are any comments, Jack61, do you have a quick comment or all good?
Just one brief comment, and
Let's go for it.
it came when you talked about the RAV, and I said it. Well, we've all said it many times.
Yes.
The RAV had to be found. It had to be found. Just remember
no
that.
question. No question. No question. So, guys, can we have Jack61? Can we have the very first slide, which is slide A1? Now, what Jack61 said is 100% true. Okay, there's no question. The finding of the RAV4 was absolutely essential. So the way we can distill it down is actually very, very simple. So every time Pam Sturm was referred to in the court documents, in the trial transcripts, she was referred to as a private citizen, a private searcher. And this was crucial, right? Absolutely crucial. Now, Pam Sturm happened to be related to Teresa Hallbach. Pam Sturm is second cousins to Teresa Hallbach. Both her and Nicole, which is her daughter, they went up to Ryan Hilligus on the morning of November the 5th, and they demanded, or Pam Sturm demanded, to go to the Avery salvage yard to search for Teresa Halbach's RAV4, right? Now, the emphasis, right, Jack 61, right, guys? The emphasis was always on finding the RAV4, which is very, very interesting when you think about it. So both Pam Sturm and Nicole, they went to the Avery salvage yard. They spoke with Earl Avery. Earl gave them permission to search in the Avery salvage yard. Now remember, the Avery salvage yard is 40 acres. And I believe, guys, there were around about 3,800 vehicles. The place was massive. Neither Pam or Nicole had ever been at the Avery salvage yard, right? Now, what is interesting is that Pam Sturm was provided with a map, a general map, with very little detail on the map. She was provided with a digital camera and also with a direct phone number to Sheriff Pagel, which is very, very interesting. Anyway, when she rolled up, both her and her daughter rolled up at the Avery salvage yard, she found the RAV4 in a short amount of time. And I think I've proven to you guys, the Foul Play team has proven to you that Pam Sturm walked directly to the RAV4, right? In the amount of time she spent, she had literally walked straight to it. She avoided about 99% of the vehicles and went directly to the RAV4. Now, as you guys have already said, and as you guys already know, finding that RAV4 was crucial. Why? Because that vehicle contained the DNA of both Teresa Halbach, who had been missing since October the 31st. It also contained the DNA of Stephen Avery, right? So finding that RAV was crucial in convicting Stephen, and then later, of course, Brendan Dassey. Now, as we all know, guys, what is important is this. The defense attorneys and also Kratz during the trial and pre-trial said to Pam Sturm, hey, how did you find the RAV? Right? A legitimate question. How on earth did you find this RAV? Constantly, Pam Sturm said it was due to the Holy Spirit, right? Due to the Holy Spirit, she could not provide a reason, a logical reason, how amongst nearly 4,000 cars she found the RAV4 so quick. She said it was the Holy Spirit, right? So this is perfect for the state, right? Because we have divine intervention. Now, guys, on the panel and in chat, can you actually call up the Holy Spirit to appear in court? Yes or no, guys? Anyone? Neverly.
In chat, the Holy Spirit my ass.
Yep. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
Maybe
So
Moses could, but I don't think
Mo-
Pam Sturm could. Yeah. Or the
no.
attorney.
Cherie, yes. Cherie, did you have a comment?
I was just going to answer no, so that's all.
Yep. Correct. So this is the perfect defense for Pam Sturm, right? So she said that it was divine intervention. And that's perfect for the state. Everyone is fine. But here's where the problem becomes real. If Pam Sturm had obtained any information or a tip or anywhere to look involving human intervention, i.e. a tip from law enforcement, guys, that's going to be serious problems. Do you agree, guys, on the panel and in chat? If she had received a tip from law enforcement on where to search for the RAV, this potentially could have had serious legal ramifications, right? because then she's not acting as a private citizen, she's acting on behalf of law enforcement, right? So potentially everything that she found, the RAV, could be tossed out of court and not presented in court. So hence, it was essential that Pam Sturm had no connections, no links to anyone in law enforcement, right? Now, does anyone on the panel or in chat have a comment? Do you agree? Neverly, do you agree?
Oh, what made it very, very suspicious, among other things, what Pam said, is that Kratz kept emphasizing that she was a citizen, concerned citizen. And whenever Kratz emphasizes something stupid like that, like the sweat, and concerned citizen and the untrained law enforcement, we know that something shady is going on. So there is a
100%.
reason why he was emphasizing that, because he couldn't say, yeah, we had a talk and it was, decided that we should send Pam over there. Then it would be illegal, or it would be a fruit of poisonous tree.
That's correct. 100% correct. So whenever you see Pam Sturm mentioned during the trial and the pre-trial, there is a lot of emphasis that she is a private citizen, right? And that she obtained no tip, no information from any law enforcement officer, right? Jack 61, can we have the next slide, please? So notice the two differences. If she obtained inspiration and guidance from the Holy Spirit, it's not a problem at all, right? The state is very happy because you can't call up the Holy Spirit as a witness. But if she obtained a tip or any information from law enforcement, there's big, big trouble. So guys, have a look at this. I spent a lot of time, and the foul play team spent a lot of time looking at the pre-trial testimonies, and oh my God, there's some very, very interesting characters. We've got Sheriff Pagel, we've got Wiegert, we've got Remeka. Now remember, Remeka is from the MTSO. We've got Ryan Hilligus, and we've got Pam Sturm. And the question is, how are these individuals linked to each other? What is the link? Is there any link at all? Now, what the state wants you to believe is what you see on the bottom right-hand corner. And that is Pam Sturm with her daughter, through the Spirit, through the Holy Spirit, found the RAV4, right? And as a consequence of her finding the RAV4, a search warrant was written up and the RAV4 was seized, right? So the state wants you to believe that Pam Sturm, and only Pam Sturm, through the Holy Spirit, found the RAV4. So there's nothing to see here, guys. But let me tell you, this is not what actually occurred in real life. Guys, any comments on the panel and any questions in chat? Are we all good? Are we all good? All right. So Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? Now, what is interesting here, and I really didn't appreciate it until I went over the pre-trial testimonies. I'm telling you right now, guys, you could almost forget the trial testimonies. This was a fate incomplete. Right, guys? If you read the pre-trial testimonies, you will discover that Stephen's attorneys were hamstrung. They had their hands tied behind their back. Stephen was doomed even before the trial began. Jack 61, guys on the panel, would you agree? Yes or no? And also in chat, would you guys agree?
Yes.
Neverly, yes. Jack 61.
Yes.
Yep. So I feel a bit frustrated in a way that I didn't personally spend enough time in the pre-trial documents, because what occurred in pre-trial was shocking, absolutely shocking. Now, as you know, guys, one of Stephen Avery's attorneys during the trial, and he represented him during the pre-trial as well, was Buting. And Buting was incredibly suspicious of Pam Sturm, right? Incredibly suspicious of Pam Sturm. So I've got the book Illusion of Justice, and I've got it on Kindle. I've read quite a bit of it, and of course, this is incredible and very poignant of what Buting wrote about Pam Sturm. Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? So again, Buting was on point. I can't believe how good Buting was during the pre-trial. Neverly, do you see the slide B?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to read it, please? So this is Buting in what he comments about Pam Sturm in his book. Let's go for it.
Sure. One of the many pre-trial motions we filed challenged the circumstances of Pamela Sturm's allegedly divinely inspired discovery of Halbach's RAV4 in the Avery salvage yard on November 5, and therefore the admissibility of the vehicle and the bloodstains inside it as evidence. Wow, this is a powerful statement.
Oh, yeah.
Sturm, a private investigator by training, came to the scrapyard that morning and got permission to search, supposedly acting as a private citizen,
Yeah,
even though she had the direct phone number for Sheriff Pagel and was the only one among all the volunteers searchers who was outfitted with a camera.
Just 1 second.
Then, sure.
Just 1 second. So, guys, do you understand what Buting wrote? Right? He's alleging that if Pam Sturm was not a private citizen, if Pam Sturm was acting on behalf of law enforcement, Buting was going to challenge, and in actual fact challenge, the admissibility of the RAV4. Now, guys, let's go around the panel and tell me in chat as well, yes or no. If the judge threw out the RAV4, has the state got a case? Andy B. If the state threw out the RAV4, if the judge threw out the RAV4, do they have a case? Andy B.
Hello, is my microphone working now?
Yes.
Hey, no, they don't have a case because, that's the main evidence was the blood and DNA evidence in the RAV, so they don't have a case.
Yep, interesting, fantastic. Thank you, Andy B. Cherie, what do you think?
I agree with Andy B. I don't think they would.
Yep. Susan, case or no case?
Yeah, I think if they didn't have the RAV4, they could not get a search warrant and get everything else. So, yeah, no.
Correct. Excellent. Jack 61.
Well, I absolutely agree. No RAV, no case. Done.
Okay. Neverly, what about you?
No RAV, no forensic evidence in the RAV.
Right.
No case.
Right. So, guys, I agree. No RAV, no case. You can, if you don't have a search warrant, right? If it was an illegal search and seize, you got no case. So can you imagine the shit that went behind the scenes? Guys, you've got no ideas what we've uncovered, right? It goes to show how important it was to make sure that Pam Sturm had no connection with anyone from law enforcement. And of course, the other suspicious thing is that Pam Sturm was privileged by being given a camera, a digital camera, and the direct phone number to the sheriff, right? Interesting. Neverly, would you like to continue reading?
Sure. Then, within minutes of her arrival, she miraculously discovered the RAV4, a needle in a 44-acre haystack of thousands of junked vehicles. It seemed more likely that someone had illegally entered the Avery property on a prior day and either placed or discovered the vehicle there, and law enforcement officials with knowledge of this enlisted Sturm's help because they did not yet have a warrant. If on November 5, Sturm was indeed acting on behalf of law enforcement rather than as a private citizen, her search would be illegal.
Illegal, guys. And I'll tell you what, we will cover this. Buting put in a motion called the Franks motion, right? About illegal search and seizure. And I'll tell you what, it was absolutely unbelievable what they did. This was during the pre-trial, right? So what they were hoping was that the judge would see that Pam Sturm herself was acting on behalf of law enforcement, right? And yeah, it's called the Franks motion. I had no idea what it was called, but yeah, amazing. Jack 61.
Yeah, I remember this well, and they argued. He and Strang argued. It was they were talking to a brick wall, of course, but they argued the legality of their warrant. I remember this well in the pretrial.
Correct. 100% correct. So this was a pivotal point, guys. If the judge threw out the RAV4, the evidence of the RAV4 and what was inside the RAV4, it would have been case over, party over. Stephen would have walked for sure. All right, Neverly, would you like to continue reading, please?
Sure. After Sturm called Sheriff Pagel, Manitoba County investigators swarmed onto the property, and Calumet County Sheriff's Office defective Mark Wiegert, yeah, one of the interrogators who would extract Brendan's various admissions, quote unquote, the following year, began preparing a search warrant so investigators could seize the RAV4. In the warrant application, Wiegert referenced information that Manitoba County Sheriff's Office Detective Dave Remiker had given him. But it was different from what Remiker had written in his report, which was that Wiegert told him he was arranging some volunteer searchers that Saturday morning to coordinate our efforts. However, that sounded a bit too much like the volunteers were acting as agents of law enforcement, which would have invalidated the entire search. And so it was omitted from Wiegert's warrant application. And this is the explanation why Kratz kept saying private citizen, concerned citizen, and why they wanted to divorce and disassociate themselves from the searchers.
It was actually worse. They even called Sturm an anonymous tip. Anonymous tip.
An anonymous tip, correct. So guys, can you see? This was when the shit show was going to actually commence, right? And guess who caused all the trouble? Remiker, Detective Remiker caused all the trouble, right? So quite clearly, if Pam Sturm was being organized by law enforcement, then she's not a private citizen. She was acting on behalf of law enforcement, which meant that potentially everything that she found could not be admissible. And remember one thing, and now it makes perfect sense, right, guys? Remember those 5 ladies that allegedly found the RAV on the Avery salvage yard in the southwest corner? You don't hear about them at all. They're never ever mentioned. You know why, guys? What do you reckon why they're not mentioned at all? considering what we've been talking about? Any ideas? Neverly, why aren't those 5 women talked about at all during the trial? Anyone got any ideas?
Well, maybe they were not, first of all, I don't think they were sent there. They did it themselves. Maybe they didn't get the permission from Earl, although that's a private property. I don't know the correct answer.
Correct. Well, there's no correct answer. If those 5 ladies discovered Teresa Hallbach's RAV4 without seeking permission from the property owner, then potentially you can't lay claim to that RAV4 because that area of the Avery salvage yard is private property, right? Random strangers can't walk onto your property and discover something and say, hey, look at this. You need permission, right? You need permission from the property owner, and Earl Avery is one of the property owners. Susan?
I don't think the 5 kittens ever claimed to have found the RAV, did they?
It's written in a report where they found
it. They said they did.
Yep. It's written in a report. And in actual fact, they were actually told to go off the property because the property was, in quotation, secured. And they even list the 5 women that allegedly found Teresa Hallbach's vehicle that were listed as friends of Teresa, and one of them was Joylene Bain, the one that spoke with Pagel about Bradley Check. Susan?
Well, I thought they had just seen those girls standing over there, and I just don't remember them saying that they found the RAV.
Yeah, it's actually in the MTSO report. It's
on
in the
south,
MTSO report.
On the south east
southwest.
corner. Southwest. Yeah, that's what I meant. Southwest. Can we pull up that report? Does anybody have it handy so we can settle it once and for all?
It's one of the slides. We can pull it up after. Yeah, it's one of the slides. We actually have gone through it in a podcast, and Susan Sipple even wrote a report about it. He even wrote a report. So this is very interesting. Those 5 women disappear. They're referred to as friends of Teresa, and law enforcement told them that they had to leave the property because the property was secured. Very, very interesting. So, Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? So this is what caused all the trouble, and it was written by Remaker in his report. Susan, do you see that report, slide E?
Yes, I do, Doc.
Would you like to read it out, please?
Sure. November 5th of 2005, I, Detective Remaker, was working at the MTSO, at which time I received a phone call from CASO investigator Mark Wiegert. Investigator Wiegert indicated there were numerous volunteer searchers who were coordinating their efforts to do some searches of properties within Manitowoc County. Investigator Wiegert indicated that several searchers were willing to go to the Avery property on Avery Road to search the junkyard salvage area. Investigator Wiegert stated he and several of the volunteer search parties would be coming to the MTSO within the next hour to meet and coordinate efforts. Wiegert requested my assistance for this follow-up. A short time later... You want me to stop?
Well, do you notice what he wrote? Investigator Wiegert stated that he and several of the volunteer search parties would be coming to the MTSO.
See, and that's a huge problem. People don't see. You just read through that. You read through that, and you don't really think too much about it until you think about the legality. I'm not a lawyer, but even I know if a law enforcement officer asks a searcher, they're acting in behest of law enforcement. That's illegal. Because they're trying to get around getting their own search warrant.
Yep, and here we have Remaker, Detective Remaker, writing a report saying, yeah, the searchers and Uyghur were going to get together. Uh-oh.
Yep.
Keep going, Susan. Keep going.
A short time later, Uyghur called me at the NPSO and indicated that he received information from a female subject who was currently on the Avery property who may have located Teresa's Toyota RAV4 vehicle on the property. Uyghur stated he is not sure if this is Teresa's vehicle, but did receive some information from the volunteer, which indicated that it may be her vehicle. Uyghur requested that I respond to the Avery property ASAP to make contact with the female subject in an attempt to obtain further information to determine if the vehicle was indeed Teresa's.
Oh, no. So here's Remika who got the who got Mark Uyghur into a lot of hot water, right? Because remember, you don't want any association between law enforcement and the searchers. The searchers are meant to be acting on their own volition. Susan, any comments?
No, Doug.
Okay,
Not
guys.
at this moment.
Okay. Has anyone got any comments? Jack 61, do you have any comments?
Well, yeah. I mean, where to start, right? I mean,
Correct.
you kind of have to put it all together in thinking about this whole situation of how Pam Sturm arrived at the Avery salvage yard. It can't just be her. She pulled up and said, "Hey, has anybody searched the Avery salvage yard?" What the hell does she know? I
Correct.
mean, so there's, to me, this being a reasonable person, this tells me there were conversations that are not recorded anywhere that happened with
Yep.
Pam Sturm. There's no doubt.
Yep.
And well, possibly Nicole. I'm not gonna include her, but she was there.
Yeah.
So right.
Yep. I think Nicole very likely was just a tag along. Everything went through Pam Sturm, in my opinion, right? But here is evidence written in a report, in an official report, that the searchers were being directed and guided by law enforcement, right? And how unbelievable is this? Who rolls up at the Avery salvage yard to check out the RAV4? None other than Remika. And Remika is from which sheriff's department? The MTSO. And it just so happened that Stephen Avery has got a civil lawsuit with Kasarik, Vogel, and also the MTSO. So we've got this massive potential conflict of interest going on right here. Neverly, do you have a comment?
Yeah, just to add to what Jack said.
Yes.
Here's Pam. Didn't she claim that she saw the whole thing on TV and she said, "Oh my God, the last."
She saw it on TV. She saw it on TV.
Okay, so from that point,
and then on the 4th, she had a conversation on the phone, allegedly with wasn't it a family member, or cousin, or something?
Family member. Yes, it was a family. Betty, I think, was her, and I think Mystic Jinx said it was her aunt. So she had spoken to a family member.
Yeah, sounds right. Sorry,
okay. So no, it's okay because I don't know the answer. So we have Pam watching TV. She sees this. She comes with this huge, wonderful eureka idea. Then she phones the cousin. And then what happens? How did Pam get in touch with Ryan Hillikas? How did she know where to go and that he was going to be waiting for her with the map and camera and the direct number to pay?
What is interesting is that Ryan Hillikas actually almost admitted that Pam Sturm was at Teresa's house on the Friday, because a lot of the searchers, remember, the searchers came on Friday to distribute the posters, and Ryan Hillikas was asked, well, was Pam Sturm there as well? And he goes, well, I'm not 100% sure. So this is truly, Neverly makes a really good point. How did Pam Sturm all of a sudden decide on Saturday morning that she wanted to go to the Avery salvage yard specifically, right?
And
Now, Yep,
how
Evelyn,
did she get together with Ryan? That's my question.
he just went over there. She just went over to Teresa's house and met him there. But
But how did
what
she know to go to Teresa's house?
well, it's likely. Well, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. I
How
think
did
when
she know that he's gonna be there?
I think
I mean,
when
we
she,
connected the dots, but
yeah,
if we want to reverse engineer it, it doesn't make sense.
my,
What she's
under,
saying, she's
my
lying.
understanding is Pam Sturm spoke with Betty. I think it was Betty, and the conversation was, "Oh, there are searches going to happen on Saturday." So she went to Teresa's home to meet up with Ryan Hilligus and Scott Blowdorn to go searching on the property. So she knew, I believe, that searches were taking place, right? But
Okay,
on the Friday, that's when they were handing out the posters. Neverly.
okay, and then they just happened to pick Pam, the concerned citizen, a private citizen, and to send her there. But didn't Ryan say that nobody else went there, or that he doesn't know where
100%.
people?
This, sorry, Neverly, for cutting you off. This is the great dilemma. Ryan Hilligus did not send anyone to the Avery salvage yard. He sent the searchers everywhere around the salvage yard, but not to it. Along comes Pam Sturm, and she demands to go to the Avery salvage yard. That's the great dilemma, right? So, Neverly, you make a good point. Ryan Hilligus sent everybody elsewhere, but not to the Avery salvage yard. But Pam insisted on going there. Now,
And
she said it was the Holy Spirit, Neverly.
yeah. And my other point was what Susan just read about Ramiker and his report.
Yes.
That's exactly what they wanted to avoid and worked
Yes.
very hard to
Yes.
construct
The
to
narrative.
be believable. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
correct. That's correct.
And there he
So-
is. Well, I always thought, I know that he's from MTSO, but to me, he always seemed like he wants to do the right thing kind of guy. Because he gave us a couple of tips, didn't he?
Yeah, well,
He honestly answered.
look, you can't make that up. You can't get that wrong, right, guys? That is a major, major point regarding the volunteer searchers meeting up with Weigert, right? And it's interesting because Buting picked this up. Neverly, do you have another comment?
No, I don't.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Jack61 put up a poll. Do we have the result of that poll, Jack61, or we check it after?
Nope, it's posted. It's up. It's
Oh,
in the
wow.
chat. Yep, you can read it out there. Doc, go ahead.
Awesome. I can't see where it is.
It's in the live chat.
I can see.
For me, it's disappeared.
Okay,
So,
it says, how did Pam Sturm find the RAV4 on the Avery salvage yard? A tip from law enforcement, 73%. A tip from Ryan Hilligus, 17%. Same aliens who dropped the key, 8%. And assistance from the Holy Spirit, 0%.
0. You heathens.
I find funny that, even aliens got more percentage than Holy Spirit.
Wow, that was a good one, Doc. That was a good one.
Hey, yeah. Now, guys in chat, did you think that was a good idea to include polls? Let us know. Give us some feedback, because we're trying to make this as interactive as possible. But yeah, that was a very interesting poll. Jack61, do you have a comment?
I think it's a great idea to engage with everyone out there, because not everyone likes to chat, and I understand that, and in the live chat. But the poll allows them to do it anonymously, because we can't see any names. It's just a percentage, right? So
correct.
I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys. Jack 61, can we have the next slide, please? So, as Everly said, Remaker, I think, was being 100% honest, and he wrote down. Now, here's an important point, and this came out in the pre-trial. Now, as we know, the officers, they phone each other up, no problems at all, and it's recorded. But correct me if I'm wrong, what is not recorded are private conversations on mobile phones. Jack 61, is it true that the officers were always on their mobile phones? Yes or no?
Absolutely. Can you give me a 1021? What's your number? Blah 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 blah. It was constant. It can't. It happened so many times I lost count.
Yep. Correct. So, guys, can you clearly see that even though now they played the phone calls between Remaker and Wiegert, there were two of them, right? And they were talking about the searches, but there was no mention about meeting them up at the MTSO. However, if they had phoned each other up on a mobile phone and said, this is our plan, this is what we want to do, then Remaker mistakenly wrote a privileged conversation between him and Wiegert, and he wrote it in a report. And that's probably what happened, right, guys? Mark Wiegert just recalled that fact and wrote it in his report, but he wasn't meant to put that down, Neverly.
You mean Remaker?
Remaker.
Yeah,
correct.
Remaker. That's exactly. I think that's so much more believable than whatever they concocted between Pagelkratz and Wiegert.
Correct. So remember, they're trying to make Pam Sturm a private citizen searcher, and that she obtained the inspiration from the Holy Spirit. Well, have a look at this slide here. This is investigator Mark Wiegert from CASO, right? Now, what Mark Wiegert did was that he actually prepared the search warrant, right, to go seize the RAV. But the search warrant, they never had a search warrant until Pam Sturm called in the RAV. This gave them probable cause to search the property and to seize the RAV4. What I didn't realize, I don't know if anyone on the panel or in chat realized, but the actual search warrant was co-written by Remaker. Who didn't know that? I didn't know that. Guys, on the panel, did you know that the search warrant, the November the 5th search warrant, was co-written by Remaker, the guy that got called to the Avery salvage yard to verify the VIN? Who didn't realize that it was co-written by Remaker? Jack 61.
I knew it, but I really hadn't even made the connection. You know, it's just one of those things. Like I said a minute ago, you read it and you move on, you know, and you don't make this other connection.
Correct.
Really
yeah, and mind you, we're going to have a look at the search warrant. Remaker's name does not appear as one of the affiliates. Isn't that interesting? Well, we all know Mark Wiegert, right? I personally believe he's a scumbag. Mark Wiegert was the one that solicited a coerced confession along with Tom Fassbender from Brendan Dassey. And isn't it amazing? It's the same people involved in everything. And you only need a small number of people to be involved in a conspiracy. You don't need hundreds. You just need key individuals. Guys, would you agree with that? You don't need a huge number of people. Only key, motivated individuals. That's all you need for a conspiracy. Susan.
Absolutely. Yep. Doesn't take many. Everybody else just does as they're told.
Correct. 100. They all fall in line. They all fall in line. Jack 61.
I agree 100% with Susan, and these people, these investigators, even the prosecutors, having conversations with these various cops and just say, look, we know he did it. I need you to do this, this, and this, blah, blah, blah. And like Susan said, they just fall in line. They're there to do a job and collect a paycheck.
And it's very likely they had no idea that stuff was planted. They believed it.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
They did. 100% they did. But what we're going to prove to you is that there were big problems with their case, huge problems that needed to be sorted out in the pre-trial. Otherwise, it was going to be big trouble. And guys, I'd like to welcome Mark Kaz, James Crane, and we've got Nosy Wren and Shane Henry in the house. Welcome, guys. Great to see you here. So this is Mark Wiegert, and have a look at the look on his face, him holding up the number plates, right? And he's probably thinking, God damn it, how did Andrew Colburn drop these? Right, guys? Isn't that interesting? All right. So Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? So as we know, Pam Sturm, when she discovered the RAV4, and Nicole Sturm took 6 pictures of the RAV4. And then Pam Sturm phones up Pagel, right? And also speaks with Pagel and also with Mark Wiegert, right? And then after finding the RAV, they have to do a search warrant, right? Because now they've got probable cause. And if you notice, Remaker's name does not appear as an affidavit. Only Mark Wiegert does. And Jack 61, if you go to point number 2, we'll just raise that up a little bit. Neverly, would you like to read out point number 2 and take note what it says?
Sure thing, Dr. Silkman.
Yep.
Number 2. Your affiant is informed that on November 3rd, 2005, at 5 p.m., Karen Hallbuck contacted the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Hallbuck stated that her daughter, Teresa Marie Hallbuck, date of birth 3/22/1980, had not been seen or heard from since Monday, October 31st, 2005. Hallbuck said it was unusual for Teresa not to have had personal or telephone contact with her family or friends for this length of time. Hallbuck stated that her daughter was driving a 1999 Toyota RAV4, dark blue in color.
Oh, wait a minute. Does anyone see what's wrong with that point number 2?
Yes.
What's wrong with it?
Karen,
That's not what she said.
No,
Exactly.
no.
Dark, kinda.
It was dark green. It was dark green, kinda. So all of a sudden, notice what Mark Wiegert does. He corrects the narrative. That's not what Karen Hallbuck said. Jack 61.
I was just going to say he made a correction to the narrative, so here we are right out of the gate with a manipulation, I'll call it.
Yeah. So he corrected the narrative. He corrected what Karen Hallbuck actually said. She said dark green, kinda. All of a sudden now it's dark blue, right? Because of course you got Pam Sturm on the property, but you've also got, apart from Nicole, you got Remaker and other officers saying, yeah, this car is not dark green, it's dark blue. So he puts dark blue in the narrative, but correct me if I'm wrong. Karen Hallbuck didn't call at 5 p.m. Wasn't it earlier in the day, like around about 3-ish?
340 something, I think. 338, I can't remember.
Yeah.
It was something like that. It was almost exactly 48 hours after she was last seen.
Yes.
As if she was waiting for those 48 hours to go by.
Correct.
And this is not the only time that we see blue RAV documented with law enforcement. Remember when they seized the car on the 3rd, whatever the document says, seized, seen, whatever, because we can't agree on it. It was also a 99 blue, dark blue. So they're changing it.
But on the search, on the missing person poster, what color was the RAV4?
Dark green.
Dark green. Right? Dark green. Now, could you imagine if people had seen a dark blue RAV on the streets and it was Teresa's vehicle and people didn't report it? Because they say, no. On the news, it said dark green. This is a blue one. This is the wrong one. Jack 61.
And undamaged. They didn't report any damage, which is a
No.
huge red flag. Go ahead, Doug. Sorry.
Huge red flag. No one reported any damage. On the missing person poster, they never said that the blinker light was broken. In fact, I don't even think Pam Sturm, when she phoned up Pagel, said that there was a damaged blinker light in their conversation. I could be wrong, but I can't remember her talking about a broken blinker light.
She did not. Her big confusion was the color. You got to tell me. You got to tell me.
That's correct. That's 100% correct. Neverly, do you have a comment?
No.
Susan, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say it is kind of odd that Pam didn't mention that broken light.
100% correct. I wonder because it wasn't mentioned on the missing person poster, right? So her confusion would have been, have I stumbled upon the wrong car, right? And that's why, as Jack 61 pointed out, she was insistent, tell me the VIN number, tell me the VIN number. Is this the right vehicle, right? Because remember when she said, we don't want to, right? So isn't that a cryptic clue that she had already talked with law enforcement, right, guys? Because she made a statement and then we get stopped her, all right? Which is very, very interesting. Susan.
Yes, absolutely. It was
Correct.
as if they'd already spoken about it. Yeah.
Already spoken about it. And if you look at point number 3, isn't it interesting that this is in the affidavit, in the search warrant, that we get mentions Remaker several times. And the important point is this, and I believe this was deliberate, where he writes here that Stephen Avery gave Remaker permission, verbal consent to search his property, right? Verbal consent. But there was one problem, right? No one gave verbal consent for Remaker to search the RAV, right? No one gave him, and we'll prove it to you. When he arrived, here's the problem, right? How did he know where Pam Sturm was when he arrived on the property, the Avery salvage yard? Because he was called to go check out the RAV4. How did he know where Pam Sturm was? Can anyone guess?
That's a really good question, Doc, because she did not tell Poggle on the phone, did she?
No, not as far as I'm aware. So how on earth, apparently Remaker has only gone to where Stephen's residence is. He's never been in the pit area. How did Remaker find Pam Sturm and Nicole Sturm?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna have to check. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm gonna have to check that recording that we got from Queso Dispatch that Seeking Truth got. Compare the timestamp to what it says to call. That was a single call, though, I think. I don't know.
Yes.
Unless they edited that call, then we didn't get to hear. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them.
Yes. And Anthony Hills makes the point, who needs the RAV when you MVAC the license plate? They don't even want to give the license plate to Kathleen Zellner at all. They don't want to give anything to Kathleen Zellner, right? So quite clearly, the number plate, somebody took them off. And interesting that Colhane said, oh, only low-level DNA, we can't get a profile. Well, you MVAC it, right? They don't want to give the RAV or anything to Kathleen Zellner. They don't want to give her the blinker light. So quite clearly, they don't want any further testing, right, guys? They don't want Kathleen Zellner to test anything.
No, absolutely not.
100% no. But if we go to the next page, Jack 61, and this is the critical part that was picked up by Buting. Point number 5. Point number 5. And Neverly, do you see point number 5 on the screen?
Of the warrant, yes.
Of the warrant. Can you read it out, please? And guys
Sure.
in chat, take careful note of what we get writes. Let's go
All right.
for it.
Number 5. Your affiant is informed that on November 5, 2005, officers received information from volunteer searchers that they had located a vehicle matching the description of the vehicle owned by Teresa Hallbach at Avery Auto Salvage, located at 12932 Avery Road in the town of Gibson County of Manitowoc, Wisconsin. Your affiant is informed that investigator Remaker was provided with the VIN number of the RAV4 located at the Avery's Auto Salvage Yard. The searchers provided the VIN such and such.
Keep going.
Yeah. Taken from the vehicle which they located. Investigator Remaker was able to confirm that the VIN number such and such is the correct number for Teresa Hallbach's Toyota RAV4. During a visual observation of the vehicle, Investigator Remaker noted that there were 3 branches covering the vehicle and also vehicle parts placed alongside of the vehicle, which looked as though someone had attempted to conceal the vehicle.
Okay.
Wait a second.
Wait. Susan, do you see any problem with point number 5?
Yeah. First of all, they didn't give them the full VIN.
Correct.
And secondly, when Remaker was describing the vehicle, why didn't he mention that light out? Also.
True. Good point. Very good point. But here's the problem. There's a couple of problems here. Nicole Sturm did not read the entire VIN number. She only read 10 of the 17 characters. So she didn't confirm that that was Teresa Hallbach's car, right? She could only read 10 of the 17 characters. Jack 61.
Another manipulation by Wiegert.
Yep, another. So that's incorrect. So he got the color wrong. It was meant to be dark green. All of a sudden it's turned to blue. And now he's saying that the searchers gave the entire VIN number to Pagel or Wiegert on the phone. That's incorrect, right? That's incorrect. Now look at this. Remaker, Dave Remaker, was not given permission to be on the property to search. He's the one that took a torch and checked out the VIN number and confirmed that it was Teresa Hallbach's car. He had no permission to be there. Jack 61.
If I'm remembering correctly, guys, it's been a long time since I've read the summary report. If I'm remembering correctly, Remaker just, when he got to the Avery Salvage Yard, he just drove in. He didn't stop and ask anybody.
He drove straight in.
Yeah.
He drove straight in. So in other words,
and how did he know where to go? That's what I want to know.
Well, isn't it interesting that both Pam Sturm and Nicole Sturm go straight down, right, to where the crusher is, then turn right and find the RAV. And Dave Remaker did the same thing. Instead of driving into the office and saying, look, I'm an officer, do you mind if he drove straight down, right? And to make matters worse, what did Wiegert do? He did exactly the same thing. He drove straight down. So these guys knew exactly where to meet Pam Sturm. You can't make this up. Jack 61, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, just all they had to do is know to go in or just drive straight down the road. They didn't have to go into the yard. They just drive straight down that road and hang a right, and they would see them. They would knew they were there.
Correct. So it's amazing. Pam and Nicole Sturm walk straight down, find the RAV. Remaker comes in and drives straight down and encounters Pam Sturm and Nicole Sturm, and he checks out the RAV, right? And he's got a torch. And he read the VIN number, right? And then after Pagel and Wiegert, they drive straight down and they meet up with the other guys on the property. So this is remarkable. This place is 40 acres large, nearly 4,000 cars, and everyone drives straight down to where the RAV is. Is anyone suspicious? Andy B, are you suspicious?
Yes. I can't add any more than that. I am suspicious.
Yep. What about you? I don't recall. Is that suspicious?
Definitely.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Okay.
I have a
Yeah.
note
Oh, yes,
to
Stephanie.
make over here. In what I just read in the number 5.5 of the search warrant,
Yes.
Uyghur says that investigator Remeker was provided by the with a VIN number,
Yes.
and that investigator Remeker was able to confirm that VIN number, which is
Correct.
how come he didn't mention that Remeker said, well, why, I don't know, I couldn't find it because it looks like it was tampered with.
He did
He
say
didn't put that.
he did say that the VIN plate looked like it was tampered and someone had tried to remove it. Susan.
Well, that's what
Yeah.
Remeker said, but Uyghur
Correct.
didn't say that.
No, not in the search warrant. No, he
Conveniently.
didn't. He didn't. Thank you, Neverly. Susan, do you have a comment?
Yeah, on Pam's phone call, Wiegert asked her, "Where are you?" And she says, "Avery salvage yard." But he doesn't say specifically. And if it was legit, he would have said, "Well, what part of the salvage yard are you on?"
100% correct.
That's right.
100%. This is a mystery. No one has been to that part of the yard before, yet they all congregate there like bees to honey. Honestly, this is true Nostradamus at work here. How in the hell is everyone finding where the RAV4 is and no one's been there before? Susan?
You would think they would assume that she was down near Steven's trailer.
Well, isn't that interesting? Right? Isn't that interesting? And remember a couple of podcasts ago when we were thinking about where Pam Sturm would go? Notice that Pam Sturm never went to where her cousin was last seen at Stephen's property. Oh, no. She didn't take that road. She went straight down to where the RAV4 was, right? So all of a sudden, everyone knows where the RAV4 was and where to congregate and meet, right? Now, Buting smelled a rat, right? Something was not, if we're finding it, could you imagine Buting? Buting smelled a rat. So, Jack 61, can we have the next slide, please? So this is Buting questioning Uyghur during the pre-trial. Jack 61, do you see the slide?
Yep, absolutely.
Would you like to be Buting? And Neverly, would you like to be Uyghur? A for answer.
Sure.
And Neverly, you see the slide?
Sure.
Okay, let's go.
But that was a really, really good point, Dr. Silkman, when she called her and she said she's on the salvage yard, or Susan said that, and he was like, okay, like he expected it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, correct. No one was
and
surprised.
why wouldn't you go to Stevens? Yeah, that was a really, really good catch. Okay.
Yeah, no one was surprised. So Buting, he had enough. He knew that something was not right. So let's go for it, guys. Check it out.
All right. Well, had you had any phone conversations with any of the volunteer searchers or on Saturday morning?
Again, I don't believe I did.
Did you tell Detective Remeker that you wanted to come meet at Manitowoc Sheriff's Department with volunteers and coordinate your efforts with theirs?
No, what I told Detective Remeker was that I would like to meet with him and that there were volunteer searchers in that area. And if we got permission from the Averys, that we would like to use those volunteer searchers. I believe I know that what you're referring to, and I believe that Detective Remeker may have misunderstood me on the phone.
I don't think he did.
Did you like my emoji?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
elbow,
All right,
elbow.
line none. Well, how are you going to get any of the searchers to Manitowoc Sheriff's Department where you said you would meet and use any of their searchers?
Wasn't our intention to bring them to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department. It was our intention to go out to the Averys first and get permission. We knew from the conversation on Friday that they were going to be in that area looking through the ditches. So we knew there would be searches in that area. We could meet with them there. That's how we're going to do that.
So your plan was you were just going to go. So then why go to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department at all?
Because we wanted to meet with Detective Remaker and see what his thoughts were on it. It was his jurisdiction at that point. We didn't have jurisdiction over anything at that point. So we wanted to go down and meet with him and see what his thoughts were on it.
Why didn't you just pick up the phone and call one of the Averys or go over there yourself and ask the first question, which is it okay if we perhaps some other volunteers come and search this salvage yard?
Again, we were out of our jurisdiction at that point. We had not been named a lead investigative agency at that point, number one. Number two, the media had contacted us on Saturday and requested if we had any new information. And we also instructed the media to meet us at Manitowoc Sheriff's Department. And at that point, we were trying to get it out to the media as much as we could because we had a missing person complaint. We were concerned about her. That was the other reason that we went to the Manitowoc Sheriff's Department, because the media, I can't see the bottom.
Was going to meet us there. Do you see it now?
Oh, okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Nerly.
No, it's okay.
Right.
I smell some bull crap here because
Bullshit. Yeah.
Major
Total
bullshit.
he's shifting all this bullshit. Not one word was said about Teresa in that phone call with Pam Sturm. They were not asking about her at all.
Yep. So normally when someone gives a real detailed response like that, you know they're hiding something, right?
Yes.
We knew he got caught out. So he had to come up with some legitimate excuse. Why on earth were they going to go to the MTSO to talk with Remaker? Right? And then he
That's
made
so
the excuse.
stupid.
Then he made the excuse, well, we're going to meet the media there. But the media were already informed about Teresa Hallbach by
Exactly.
Pagel 1 day prior.
And a
Right?
simple phone call would be, we're searching for her. She's still missing.
Correct.
What else are they going to
Correct.
tell the media?
Correct. That's exactly right. I remember the phone call, Jack 61, of Pagel. He talks to that officer. He goes, well, we're going to tell the media, you wait till we put out a report. Remember what he said?
I don't.
There was a phone call between Pagel and another officer saying, oh, the media are hounding you. He goes, well, we got nothing more to tell them. If the media report is at 3:00, it's at 3:00. Don't bother me. And we get contradicted what his boss just said.
Yep.
So, guys, can you see that Mark Uyghur got caught red-handed?
Mm-hmm.
He was going to talk to the searchers. He was going to direct the searchers. So, hence, the searchers were under his direction and command. He got caught out. So he had to now counter by saying, oh, no. Remaker misunderstood me.
Yeah, the hell he did.
Yeah, right.
It was very clear in that phone call.
Bullshit. So are you trying to tell me, this is remarkable. Are you trying to tell me that all law enforcement had to do was phone up the Avery salvage yard and say, do you mind if we search?
We can play
That's it.
We can play that change of plans phone call, Doc, if you want.
Let's do it. Let's do the change in plans phone call, Jack 61.
Give me a moment.
Let's have a look. Let's have a listen, because that phone call, there were 2 phone calls with Remika, and also we get that Buting played in court. He had a transcript as well. So we'll just listen to the change in plans.
Okay, that was on the morning of the 5th.
Yes. And Jack 61, we have to mute.
You will. Yeah, here we go.
Okay.
It's a minute and 6 seconds.
can
I'm
you-
going to pull it up.
Can you
Sorry,
tell us
Sue.
the time, JJax?
It's at 10:07. Sorry, just a second. I didn't mean to do that. All right, let me pull this up here. Okay. All right, here we go. Sorry for the delay. Yeah, this is a minute and 5 seconds. Here we go.
Amaker? Baby. Yeah. Is it 323 or 373? 323. I can't remember the fucking rating. 323. Hey, kind of a change of plans here. Okay. The boss has got something he wants us to do. Okay. He wants us to go back over and re-interview Avery and Zipper again. And now that the search party is out there, he wants to ask them if they would allow us to have the search party come on the property and go through the junkyard, since the search party is going. Okay. So if it's okay with you, we'll meet you over at your sheriff's department. Okay. Talk about it a little bit, and if you're not too busy. Okay. Yeah, Zipper's not going to be real happy. I'm sure he's not. If he tells us no, he tells us no. All right. That's the way it is. Okay. If you don't mind, help us out. Yeah, that's fine. Stop over. Okay, we'll probably be there maybe within the hour. Okay.
Now, isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and I just briefly explain, when this thumbnail was made, we didn't have the exact time until last year.
Yep.
So it got corrected. Just wanted to mention that.
Yep. Don't worry. We will go through all of this, right? So, Jack 61, if we can have a look at the next slide, which is K. This is incredible. Susan, do you have a comment?
I was just going to say that call would have been right after Poggle had talked to Pam at Ryan's or at Teresa's.
Very close.
That's
Very
close to that. And she was on her way there, basically, at that point.
She was. And I believe what had happened was that Pam Sturm jumped the gun. She went in too early.
Yeah.
Went in 10 minutes too early, right? So the citizen searches was meant to be Pam Sturm, right? But she went in too early and fucked up all the plans, and it got very, very embarrassing. Now, this is amazing. Have a look. Buting's no dummy. Look what Buting said to Sturm, right? Jack 61, can you read the question, which is Buting? And Neverly, can you read the answer, which is Pam Sturm? This is very important. Let's go for it, guys.
All right. And was it your understanding that none of the other searchers who had left earlier were going to the Avery salvage yard?
I'm so sorry, I got lost.
Can you see it? Slide K. Can you see it, Neverly?
No, I'm looking for it. Slide, you said K?
Yeah.
K.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I apologize about that.
No
He
worries.
said there was no one else that had gone there.
Okay. So what the fuck? What the fuck was Wiegert talking about that the searchers were out there?
Exactly.
Sounds good, but it's a lie.
Pam Sturm just said, Ryan Hilligus told me there was nobody out there. So how on earth was Wiegert, now listen to this, how on earth was Wiegert going to use the searchers who were out there to come on the Avery salvage yard and search? Susan.
I think he said they were in the area around.
But what were law enforcement going to do? Round up the searchers?
Yeah, it makes no sense. Ridiculous.
Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Look, the only person who knows what's going on is the guy with the helmet. Have you look at his eyes? He must be in charge. He must be in charge of the investigation.
I know nothing.
I know nothing. This is the most remarkable thing that you've ever heard. That Mark Wiegert just randomly thought that the searchers who are going everywhere were just going to be available for him and Pagel to call upon to go and search the Avery salvage yard, when Buting said, hey, all you had to do was just call them up. Just say, hey, look, do you mind if we search? Right? Susan.
I also think that he threw in zipper there just as a red herring.
Yes.
To be less suspicious.
Yes. So in other words, the focus wasn't directly on Stephen, right?
They're not targeting.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
100% correct.
But also to keep law enforcement's hands really away from it, he could have asked Ryan to do it. Ryan Hilligus said, call up Avery Salvage. I said, look, we got some searchers that want to come on, search the property. Yes. Is that okay? Didn't do that either.
No, but do you notice, Susan?
Oh, I was just going to say, Jinx has a good point. Why didn't they ask to go through the yard on the 4th when they went through Avery's trailer?
Correct. 100%. In actual fact, Mark Wiegert was, Remaker was asked this by Buting. Goes, oh, no, I just got permission to search through his trailer. I found nothing of suspicion. And remember the phone call, Jack 61, where Remaker goes, I don't think Stephen's involved in this. Jack 61.
That's exactly right. He was talking to, I think one of the Herman, but he did say that they'd gone through and didn't. In my gut, I don't think he's involved. Yep. He didn't detect anything. Didn't smell nothing. Didn't see nothing.
But notice the precipitating factor, the change in plans. Now, how miraculous is this? And we'll go through it. How miraculous is this? Out of the blue, on Saturday morning, there's a change in plans at the same time that Pam and Nicole Sturm head out to the Avery salvage yard.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Right?
It can't be coincidence. I'm sorry. It cannot.
No. And Mark Wiegert talked about organizing the searches, which to me means that there's a direct link between law enforcement, the private searchers who happen to be Pam and Nicole Sturm. So there's a direct connection there. Neverly, do you have a comment?
Speaking of coincidences, they did a flyover and then they waited to do the search on that Saturday. And the day before that was the 4th, right? And there was no recordings made. They didn't talk at all. That was like a day off or a holiday, whatever it was. So that's exactly when the plan was set in place, don't you think?
Oh, look, there's no doubt something happened between the 4th and the 5th. Would you guys agree? And in chat, would you guys agree? Something occurred between the 4th and the 5th. Jack 61.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
Susan.
Yep. That's when the RAB was put there.
That's when the RAV4 was planted. There's no question about that. That's when the RAV4 was planted, between the 4th and the 5th. All right. So Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide, please? So I don't know how Mark Wiegert thought he was going to get away with shit like this, right? So have a look at this slide here and why it's important. And I'll tell you why. Because remember, Pam Sturm always was recognized as a volunteer searcher. She had no connection at all with the law enforcement. This is the impression that they're trying to say. They're trying to say that through the power of the Holy Spirit, she was able to find the RAV4, right? As a consequence of finding the RAV4, law enforcement needed probable cause. Therefore, Mark Wiegert and Remaker write up the search warrant, go and seize the RAV, and lo and behold, in that RAV4, there's forensic evidence against Stephen Avery. Wow. So, if it's the Holy Spirit, no problems. You can't put the Holy Spirit on the stand. She's got the greatest defense because you can't call up the Holy Spirit and say, is this the truth? Now, notice, they wanted to make sure that neither anyone from Calumet County or the Manitowoc County were involved in talking to Pam Sturm, right? They tried to distance themselves from Pam Sturm, but Remaker put them straight in the gun barrel by his report, and Remaker had to backtrack, and also Wiegert had to backtrack to say it was a simple misunderstanding. Neverly, do you have a comment?
No.
We're all good. Does anyone have a comment? We got another poll. you ripper. Yeah. So, quite clearly there's something going on here which doesn't make any sense. Right?
Well, my
so
comment is I'm so sorry.
Go for
Remember
it, Neville.
when he was on the stand and he dastardly said, well, they had 5 days to clean up when they were,
Correct. Remaker. Wiegert. Correct.
Uyghur. And what a bastard to say that, where, of course, everybody immediately jumped back and said, punched back and said, yeah, but you had 5 days to plant whatever the heck you wanted.
Correct. 100% correct. Correct. All right. So, again, sorry, Susan.
I just wanted to say that, I think that Wiegert had absolutely no problems lying on that search warrant because never in a million years did he know that this level of scrutiny would be put on this case.
Excellent point. 100% correct. They did whatever they wanted to, right? But the problem is that Remaker wrote down exactly, he couldn't have made that up, right? He obviously heard either through a mobile phone call that, hey, Pam Sturm, she's going to find the RAV, get ready, because everyone was ready. Remember, guys, when Pam Sturm phoned up Pagel and spoke with Pagel and Sturm and Wiegert, they had the VIN number ready to rock and roll. Now, how on earth have they got everything pre-prepared if they don't know anything about where the RAV4 is? And the answer is they knew that Pam Sturm was going there. They knew that Pam Sturm was going to find the RAV, and all they had to do was confirm it, except Pam made a couple of fatal mistakes. One, she mentioned, this is the wrong color. Are you sure? And remember the game that she played with Wiegert. You got to tell me. Now, wait a minute. She's meant to be the grieving cousin looking for her cousin, Teresa, and she's playing a game with Mark Wiegert. And if you notice, remember what I said before in the previous podcast, guys, neither Pagel nor Wiegert asked about Teresa. Remember, guys, they never said, have you found any evidence of Teresa? Have you seen any blood? Have you found the murder weapon? Susan.
Pam didn't mention her either.
No.
But they asked about the license plates, which was so bizarre. And her knowing the distinction between 99 and 2000 RAV. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that was
Correct.
weird. I also
Yep.
suspect that they took the VIN number right off the RAV before it was planted.
Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? And just one more point about the search warrant. Sorry, Neverly, before I get to you. Do you notice what Mark Wiegert wrote in the search warrant? Oh, Remaker confirmed that the RAV4 was hidden. Someone tried to disguise it. You know why he wrote that? Anyone want to have a guess?
No.
It's because they're trying to justify why Pagel couldn't see the RAV from above in the aeroplane. Except, of course, what do we see that's standing out? The big freaking sign that says RAV4 Toyota. Now,
They had to
I
leave
know-
that open for Pam to see, or for
Pam,
someone to see, to find
correct.
the vehicle.
100% correct. Now, look, Stephen, he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he's not the most stupidest person on the planet. You are able to meticulously scrub forensically Teresa Horbach from the garage and from the trailer. And yet you leave the victim's vehicle with your blood in it on the property with a big sign that says, hey, come over here. I am the RAV Toyota 4. I'm the RAV4 and I've got a big sign on there, right? And it had the Lemieux sticker on it as well. So wait a minute. Stephen goes to all the hassles of removing the number plates. Why? Why remove the number plates if you leave you leave the VIN number on there? What's the difference? Guys, has anyone got an answer? Neverly.
No.
We're all good? Jack 61.
Well, that is an excellent question, and I can't answer it. I don't really know why they would remove the plates off of it. But secondly, we also have to remember there was no identifying paperwork, which most, I don't know how it is in other countries, but most U.S. citizens,
Yes.
they keep their registration, not the title, but the registration, in their glove box or in some kind of something inside their vehicle so they can prove ownership if need be. There was nothing. It was all gone, everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. There's some weird stuff happening in that RAV. Susan.
I think they use those plates for just another bit of evidence on the property in a different place.
Yeah. And rumor has it has asked a question. Sorry, Susan. She's asked, does anyone think Pam would have told Nicole anything, or was she completely in the dark? I wonder if she has admitted anything to Nicole throughout the years. I don't think Nicole knew anything personally. I think it was Pam who was driving the whole show. Although Nicole was very, very deceptive during her trial testimony, because she refused to remember Jack 61. Remember, guys, she was asked about 3 or 4 times about, did you see blood in the RAV? And Nicole kept on giving excuses. Oh, it was dark. Oh, we didn't look. Oh, we didn't know. Until she was asked blank, did you see blood in the RAV? She goes, no. Right? And she took the 6 pictures, and quite clearly there was plenty of daylight. You could see straight through the front. And are you trying to tell me that Pam Sturm, who's a private investigator, wouldn't have checked the car for blood? Right? Jack 61.
Well, not only that, but anything. If she was actually, had this private investigator license, there are certain things that they know to do. But Anthony Hills made a good point that Kratz kept insisting that the car was locked.
Correct.
He had to do that.
Correct.
Too much. Too
correct.
much.
Now,
he went on and on about that.
Now I know this is
confession.
nefarious. I know this is nefarious, but who do you think would have been in a perfect position to plant Stephen's blood in that RAV4? Anyone want to have a guess? Who?
Sherry Colhane.
Colhane, but who else had the opportunity to?
Well, there actually were several opportunities.
Pam Sturm.
Yep.
Pam
Sturm.
Sturm. Pam
right.
Sturm. Pam
did.
Sturm did. Right? Pam Sturm did. And it's interesting when Wiegert said, do not touch the car, do not go in the car. Pam Sturm had the perfect I'm not saying she did, of course, but think about it. Nicole was ahead of Pam. It was Pam that was next to the RAV and then called Nicole to come back. If you're going to plant blood, that would have been I'm not saying she did, but that would have been the perfect opportunity to do it, right? Hey, I'll find my cousin's RAV. Boom. Susan.
What was it when she stopped herself about putting something during the phone call with Poggle?
She her daughter was trying to allegedly trying to open the doors, right? Because they asked Nicole, she checked all the doors and she said that they were locked. And
Pam started to say something about
yeah, yes,
we didn't want to put.
That's right.
Yeah, something.
Right. And then she stopped.
Yeah,
correct. The whole conversation between Pam, Pagel, and Wiegert is very, very suspicious, in my opinion. All right. Jack 61, can we have the next slide, please? Well, you reckon Buting was going to stop? Buting now question Wiegert, right? This is in the pre-trial. Who would like to?
Before we move on, Doc, the poll has ended, the second one. So, Nerly, can you see that and read it out?
Sure. Did Wiegert and Remiker deliberately use false or incorrect information in the November 5th search warrant? A. Is that even a question? Of course, 85%. B. Blame the aliens, 14%. And C. It was a simple, honest mistake, 0%.
Oh my God, those pesky aliens! I tell you. Oh my God, that's amazing. All right.
Yeah, Susan.
Beverly.
You brought up the fact that Pam said before we what? And we're like, what did she say? What did she mean, right? Maybe, and this is speculation, and I'm being a little bit facetious over here. Maybe she was going to say before we put the VIN number on this car. Get it? Like they don't want to put the plate. I'm just being playful.
Yeah, we don't know. And I was only joking about Pam Sturm carrying blood. I promise. But if you had the opportunity to plant the blood, it's like a boss. Before I plant this blood, have we got the right vehicle? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Same with the VIN.
Yeah, correct. That's why she wanted to check the VIN, because it would have been rather embarrassing if she had the ability to plant blood and she put in the wrong car. That wouldn't have been too good. That would have been too good. All right. Now, who would like to read the part of Buting? That's the question. And who would like to read Wiegert?
Yeah, I can continue to read Buting unless somebody else wants to do it. It's up to them.
You can read Buting. Who would like to read the part of Wiegert?
I could.
Oh, Sherry, there you go. Go for it, sweetie.
Sherry. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Let's go for it.
Alrighty. Question: until the vehicle was located by Miss Sturm on the 5th, you did not believe there was probable cause to get a warrant? Isn't that right?
Maybe not at that point, but looking at it now, yeah, I believe it would have.
You didn't. In other words, the mere fact that that Teresa Halbach had been at the Avery property 4 or 5 days earlier, and that Mr. Avery had acknowledged that, was not enough for you to get a probable cause for a search warrant.
I think the fact that she was missing for that many days, coupled with the fact that it was the last place she was seen, I think looking back on it now, we may have been able to use that for enough probable cause.
But you did not seek a warrant at that time.
At that point, we did not know.
And during that period of time, you were obviously concerned about doing whatever you could to locate Teresa Halbach.
That's correct.
And nevertheless, you did not seek a warrant until after Ms. Sturm located the vehicle on the property.
That's true, yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
There you go. There you go. If that is not an embedded confession, I don't know what is. So notice what they did. Butyn is saying, look, you went on the property. Remaker went there. Lenk went there. Colburn went there. You searched his trailer. Why didn't you just simply ask, oh, look, do you mind if we have just a quick check? You know, you never know. There could be something. Or do you mind if we just check? They never did any of that, right? Notice when they put the search warrant, they waited for Pam Sturm to find the RAV. Now, isn't that interesting? Susan?
First of all, I think Stephen would have given them permission.
Yes.
Okay, brain fart. Never mind.
Yes.
I had another point, but I lost it.
Guys, I agree. Stephen would have said, yeah, go your hardest, right? Think about it. If he allowed the law enforcement in his own trailer, that's allegedly where he assaulted, him and Brendan assaulted Teresa Halbach. If the gig was going to be up, that's it. Being a trained police officer, they would have found something, right? Something amiss. Remaker found nothing. And to make matters worse, Remaker denied being in the property with Brutus. When Brutus went through the property, remember, guys? Remaker said, no, I wasn't in there with the dog, with the cadaver dog. And Diedring wrote his name twice. He was there with Brutus. Brutus never hit in the bedroom because nothing happened in the bedroom. Teresa never was in there, right? So do you think Stephen would have said to Wiegert or Pagel, no, you can't search? No, he would have said, yeah, go for it. He's got nothing to hide. Guys, don't you understand that Stephen Avery went to Crivets? He knew the plane flew over. They would have talked about it. They would have seen it. He went to Crivets. He never stayed back to hide the vehicle, to burn it, to crush it. Nothing. Stephen had no idea that Teresa's RAV4 was there. Neverly.
Well, I'm going to go back a little bit to what Remaker said. He said that, not Remaker, I'm sorry, Wiegert. Wiegert said that Calumet wasn't involved. They weren't giving like a go to get involved with the case. So they didn't want to use Manitowoc because of that presumption of involvement because of the 1985 case, right?
Correct.
So
Correct.
that's why they went out their way to find a neutral, quote unquote, party.
Yeah,
but
who did they send? Who did they send to the Avery salvage yard to confirm the VIN?
But that was after she found it.
Yeah, after she found it, correct. Remaker.
If Manitowoc from the get-go found a car, just like from the get-go they found the key, maybe the jurors would be like, huh.
Correct. That's why law enforcement had to be at arm's length to Pam Sturm. And that's why when Remaker wrote in his report, oh, yeah, they're going to meet up with the searchers and direct them to go onto the salvage yard to check, to search. Uh-oh. Now you've got law enforcement directing the searchers to go on the property. And guess what? That never happened. Why? Because Pam Sturm went in there too early. And she rang up Pagel to say, guess what? And he goes, what? You found the RAV? So the gig was up, guys. The gig was up. All right. And I think that's further proof. You know how they were actively searching for the vehicle for Teresa Hallbach? To me, that's proof positive that Pagel never saw the RAV on November the 4th. When they did the flyover, they never saw it. Susan.
It's also why they didn't ask to search it on the form. They knew it wasn't there.
Correct. If there was any hint that the RAV4 was there, they would have definitely come in and searched the property. They never did. So the question is, guys, and I say it to my fellow panel members and in chat, what was the change in plans? Why all of a sudden was there a change in plans by Pagel? Pagel was directing the change in plans, right? Susan.
Everything was in place. The RAV was there. They had Pam going out there.
Yep, you got it. Yep, A follows B follows C. They had it all lined up, except Pam went in too early. All right. So now Buting questions Remaker, right? Now, who would like to read Buting? This is the next slide. Who would like to read Buting? Are you happy, Jack, to read Buting?
I can, Doc. I'll get the next slide up. Apologies.
Okay. So this is slide O. And Neville, would you like to continue reading Remaker, which is the answer? Do you see slide O coming up? We'll just wait for Jack 61. Okay, so this is Buting now questioning Remaker. Now remember, Remaker is in hot water because of what he wrote in his report. Let's go for it, guys.
Okay, question. And does it also say, quote, Investigator Wiegert stated he and several of the volunteer search parties will be coming to the MTSO within the next hour to meet and coordinate efforts, right?
Correct.
That's what your report says.
Correct.
And finally, Investigator Wiegert requested my assistance for this follow-up, close quote.
Yes.
That's what your report says, right?
Yes.
And is your report true and accurate?
It's close.
Oh, Jesus. It's close.
That's what she said, right?
Oh, my God.
Oh, my.
I'm watching the opposite. I'm watching the opposite unfold in front of my eyes.
Oh my God, it's close.
Okay, question.
Okay,
line
sorry,
7. You're fine. Line 17. You try and make a complete and true report, I assume, right?
Absolutely.
And when you say it's close, that's based upon what?
Well, during my conversations with Investigator Wiegert, in the first conversation I had with him, he indicates that he says to me, just so you know, the family is doing their own thing out there with searchers. In case you get calls of trespassers, in case you get calls that
Notice, no, I just picked it up. Trespassers.
Yep.
Oh, shit. You know who the trespassers are, right?
The 5 little kittens?
The 5 little kittens.
Yep.
Oh, no. Keep going. Sorry, guys.
In case you get calls of trespassers, in case you get calls that there's people walking the ditches, the families out there doing their own thing. That was my first conversation with him.
And this conversation that you are relating right now, is that based on some independent recollection you have now of an event?
That's based on my review of the phone calls.
Ding, 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 ding.
Here we go. This is a good one.
That's based on your review of the phone calls that you did to prepare for today's testimony?
Yeah, I mean, some of the conversation I can recall, but I was able to, I guess, verify a little bit more once I reviewed that.
anything else about your report, or is there anything you want to report that's not true?
Well, I guess I misunderstood Investigator Wiegert, in which at some point I had thought that he was bringing some people to our department, some volunteer searchers, to coordinate our efforts. That wasn't the case.
Well, that is what you put in your report, though.
Correct.
So is your report not true on that?
I would say that part is a little, it's not quite accurate.
It's not quite accurate.
Shit.
But then
Not
he
quite.
says, absolutely. Yeah.
That's what she said. Not quite accurate doesn't really cut it. My question is, did Wiegert say that several searchers were willing to go to the Avery property to search the junkyard salvage yard area?
The part that there were volunteer searchers out there, that's accurate. Another conversation that I had with Wiegert after that was, he calls me, he says, hey, we have a change of plans. I think we should re-interview Stephen and another individual. And he also indicated that there were some volunteer searchers who were willing to go out and do some searches in different locations. And he had thought that we should meet up and talk about that. And it was possible that we would go and try to get consent from the Averys to search the salvage yard. That was the second conversation I had with him.
Okay,
Anyone bullshit meter going to 100?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's not what they. There must have been
ridiculous.
another conversation that we don't have.
Mobile phone.
Yeah.
Yep, had to be, absolutely. All right, continuing, and all of this recollection that you are relating to us now comes from your review of the phone calls.
It's a little bit of both. As I reviewed the phone calls, I remembered a couple of more things, an independent recollection of that exact date.
Oh,
Here
look
we
at
go.
this.
Here we go. Judge, at this time, I request we take a break. We have not had an opportunity and did not even know of such recordings, even though we have requested them. And I think at this point we have to go take a break so that we can have an opportunity to review those before I can complete my cross-examination of Detective Remaker.
Oh
Boom.
my God.
Yay!
Oh my God.
Not that it made any difference, but
No, in the end, no. But notice Remaker wrote that in his report about the searches. Then he tried to backtrack. Then Wiegert tried to backtrack, and now he talked about, oh yeah. I got my recollections from the phone calls, and Buting's going, what phone call? What are you talking about, Susan?
I really think Remaker was a patsy at this point.
He had no idea.
Yeah.
He had no idea. Yeah.
He was being used.
And he's really not a good bullshitter.
No.
Yeah, and we don't. I don't have an exact number. I guess I could probably do some addition, but I'm going to guess out of the thousands of phone calls, dispatch calls that we have, at least well over 1,000. There's probably more from Manitowoc. Now, this is not even including November 4th, which we don't have. What does the state give Buting and String? 30 fucking calls. 30.
Yep.
And they have the metadata wiped from them. There's no reference to when they happened. Such bullshit.
Correct. They got caught
out.
They got caught out.
Fuckers.
And I agree with Mystic Jinx. I reckon that Remaker put two and two together, that the citizen searches that Wiegert was referring to was none other than Pam and Nicole. It's as simple as that. That makes perfect sense. That the citizen searchers who were going to search the Avery salvage yard were Pam and Nicole Sturm, which then begs the question, how in the hell did Wiegert know? How in the hell did Pagel know? Which means that Wiegert was in the know of Pagel's change in plans. It all would have gone perfect, except Pam went on the property before Pagel and Wiegert got out there. Guys, do you agree? That's the stitch up. That's it right there. And what did Ryan Hilliger say? Ryan Hilliger said, we didn't send any searches out to the Avery salvage yard.
Yep,
Jack 61.
that's right. That's exactly right.
Right, right. So let's have a look at the next slide. And what I'm going to do. Oh, by the way, Mystic Jinx is in chat. Is Remica related somehow to Kaserik? Is there a relationship between Remica and Kaserik? I know they live close to each other. I'm just wondering whether there's an actual relationship between the two. Jack 61.
She can answer. She's done the research, but I don't think there is. But I do seem to remember Remiker, his father was something, either in, I think he was in, or maybe I'm thinking of Wiegert. I think I'm thinking of Wiegert. Never mind.
Okay. Well, guys, check this out. It took me about 2 weeks to put this together. I read all the pre-trial testimonies, and look at this, and the case of reports. Now, according to the state, this is according to the state, Pam Sturm with Nicole, who are private citizens, private searchers, they ask Ryan Hilligus that they want to go to the Avery salvage yard because the Holy Spirit gave him inspiration. So Ryan gives Pam Sturm a general map, a digital camera from Scott Blowdorn, and the direct number from Sheriff Pagel to contact Sheriff Pagel. Pam Sturm arrives at the Avery salvage yard at about 9:50 a.m. in the morning, right? And she finds the RAV4. Now, what is very interesting is if you look at a Remica goes to the Avery salvage yard on November the 4th, 1 day prior. He asks Stephen if he can search his trailer. Stephen goes, yep, go your hardest, no problems. Remica finds nothing nefarious and tells another officer in a phone call, right, Jack 61, I don't think he's involved. I found nothing. This is Remica. On November, now let's look at Pagel. On November the 3rd, Mark Wiegert goes to Pagel and says, oh,
Probably.
Karen Horbach has reported her daughter missing, etc., etc. Wiegert phones Pagel at home at night time and tells her this. Pagel goes to work and contacts the media on November the 3rd. So straight away, there are media reports, and we played them on our podcast, that Teresa Horbach is missing, is a missing person. 1 day after, on November the 4th, Pagel goes in the sheriff himself goes in an aeroplane with Baldwin. They fly over the Avery salvage yard between 15 and 20 minutes, low altitude. They don't spot anything. And they fly around the property. They don't spot a RAV4 at all, right? This is November the 4th. So check it out. Remica goes inside Stephen Avery's trailer, finds nothing. Pagel with Baldwin fly over the Avery salvage yard, low altitude, find no RAV. This is November the 4th. November the 5th, there's a sudden change in plans. Pagel obviously tells Remica about the change in plans, and Jack 61 is correct. That phone call between Remica and also Wiegert is at 10:07 a.m. There's one problem. Pam Sturm is already at the Avery salvage yard at 9:50. Do you understand? So that change in plan about the searches comes too late because Pam Sturm is already at the Avery salvage yard. When Pam Sturm finds the RAV, she phones up Pagel, right? Because she's got the direct number. But earlier that morning, Pagel is at Teresa Horbach's house sending a test fax. And I think Mystic Jinx said what the actual time was. That meant that Pagel and Pam Sturm likely were in the same spot at the same time. Now, according to Pam Sturm, she doesn't know who Sheriff Pagel is. Pagel never mentions he knows who Pam Sturm is. Nothing. But Pagel is there sending off a test fax, right? Pagel obviously is communicating with Ryan Hilligus. Ryan Hilligus happens to be the ex-boyfriend of Teresa Horbach and is staying in her house with Scott. Now, Ryan Hilligus sends all the searchers away from the Avery salvage yard. This is remarkable, right? Remember, he was told, well, did you know where Teresa was last seen? Yeah, at Stevens, at the Avery salvage yard. Yet he doesn't send any searchers to the salvage yard, except when Pam Sturm rolls up, Pam Sturm says, I want to go to the Avery salvage yard. So she's a citizen searcher, private citizen searcher. When she phones up Pagel about the VIN number, it's Mark Wiegert that asks Pam Sturm, well, tell me the numbers. What numbers do you have? Nicole can only read 10 of the numbers. That's it. Lo and behold, who turns up at the Avery salvage yard to confirm the VIN? Remaker. And Remaker confirms the VIN number at 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. And guess what? Not only is Remaker there, he's with Orth and Herman. How the fuck are they doing it? What are they doing at the Avery salvage yard? So you've got Remaker, Orth, and Todd Herman at the Avery salvage yard at the RAV4. And Remaker uses a torch to check out all the numbers of the VIN, and he's got the report with him. He's got the VIN number with him. So after Remaker confirms the VIN, what does he do? He gets together with Mark Wiegert and they write the search warrant. And there's clearly collusion going on because they had to get their story straight, right? And all hell breaks loose because Buting goes, hey, wait a minute. You wrote a report saying that Mark Wiegert was going to meet up with the searchers. What's going on? And both of them had denied it. So guys, can you see that there's an intimate relationship between Pagel, Wiegert, Remaker, Hilligus, and Pam Sturm, right? Now, the state only wants you to concentrate on Pam Sturm finding the RAV4 through the power of the Holy Spirit. Susan.
How long does it take to go from Teresa's house to Avery salvage yard?
I don't know. I haven't mapped out the distance, but I'm sure Mystic Jinx probably knows how time-wise. I'm not 100% sure, but that's definitely worth checking.
She says 35 minutes or so.
Okay.
And okay. Pam says she gets to the Avery salvage yard
at 10 to 10.
10 to 10.
10 to 10. Yeah, and at about 10:20, 10:25,
okay,
she phones in for the RAV, right? And don't forget, Pagel and Wiegert were just about to leave to go to the Avery salvage yard, right? So I think they had enough time to make it back to Calumet from Teresa's house.
Yeah, so she would have been at Ryan's if she got there about 9. She would have been there 25 minutes, 25 minutes.
Yes. Yes. You mean to drive? So timing wise, it actually fits perfectly because she was there.
That's a long time to just get a map and a camera and a phone. She was there talking to Poggle.
No question. No question. So guys, have I convinced you guys? Have I convinced everyone in chat? There's a link between all of them. But what they wanted you to believe was that there was no connection at all between Pam and anybody else. Through the power of the Holy Spirit, she found the RAV, case closed. But you can see that there was a lot of connections between all of them. So it makes perfect sense that the change in plan was Pagel had received a tip, very likely a tip. By the way, the RAV4 is on the property. That tip could have come from those 5 women who found the RAV, but they searched it illegally because they weren't given permission, or someone phoned in to say, oh, by the way, you should look here. That got passed on from Pagel to Pam, except Pam went onto the property before Pagel and Wiegert got to the Avery salvage yard, which caused a mega embarrassment. And then what does Remaker do? He writes in the report that Wiegert was going to meet up with the searchers. Oh my God, what a mess. Guys, what do you think? Don't be stunned now. What do you think, guys? Did I stretch it too far, or is that spot on? Susan.
I don't think you've stretched it too far. I definitely think they were all, and like I said, Remaker was a patsy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Pam was used.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah.
Yes. But you see the excuse that she used to make sure that law enforcement were never included. She said it was the Holy Spirit, and therefore, how can you go against that as a form of defense? You can't call the Holy Spirit up to the stand, right?
I think Pam was told, hey, we know Stephen Avery did this.
Yep.
We've got other evidence.
Yep.
Yes.
We need a little help.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Correct. And that's all the encouragement she needed. We believe that Stephen killed your cousin. Do you mind just doing a little errand for us? Because we can't go on the property because it'll be an illegal search and seizure. Ring us up. Tell us that you found the RAV. We'll do the rest. Jack 61.
Yeah, I think Remaker was definitely used. And he found out after the fact and was probably pretty pissed about it. That would just be, but he's trying to correct it to, the thin blue line shit. And I think he just did the best he could, but he still let the cat out of the bag about the calls. That opened up another can of worms. Of course, they screwed him and only gave him, just a fraction of relevant calls, just a fraction. They didn't have shit to work with.
And I do agree with Mystic Jinx. Dennis Jacobs was in this. Remember the Nostradamus call?
Up to his eyeballs, he was in it and didn't write a single report. Nothing.
Yep, Dennis Jacobs was in it. I reckon that Mark Wiegert, Remaker were used. I'm not sure how much Ryan Hilligus was used. His behavior is very, very odd. If he knew that Teresa Horbuck was seen at the Avery salvage yard, why not just simply send a group of searchers there? Hey, we're looking for our cousin. Do you mind if we search? And don't say that's bullshit, because David Beach went there the day before, right, guys? Teresa's own cousin went to the Avery salvage yard and spoke to Stephen in the office. So they did nothing nefarious to say, hey, this is private property, you can't go there. No, not at all. So something guys, something happened between November the 4th, November the 5th, and that brings in Tom Sawinski, potentially Baresh, and also Siebert. What the hell? All of a sudden, people are seeing the RAV4 off the property, and you have Ryan Hilligus with 22 drop phone calls the day before, and you've got Chuck Avery who says, I saw lights near my house. And that's the same road that you go down to go and find the RAV. Are any alarm bells going on, guys? There are so many red flags here. It's a bit of a joke, right? Does anyone have any comments? All right. Well, look, guys. Sorry, Jack 61.
Just to add in, I think that, this other element that we don't really forget about it, but we don't talk about it, that's going on, is the media focus. They've got everybody so distracted, right? It had to be, it has to, is an element that has to be considered at all times because here we've got this young photographer, female, that's gone missing. Last place you seen out there at that dirty fucking salvage yard, and you just never know what's going to happen out there. There's been trouble and blah blah blah, and it just blows everything up and distracts everyone.
Stephen Avery, all over the media.
Correct, 100% correct. But
I also believe that someone higher than Poggle directed Poggle.
Oh well, it's either Peterson. It's either Peterson or Kacerik.
Or higher,
or maybe even higher. I mean, the
state was in trouble.
Correct, 100% correct. All right. Well, look, guys, I want to do a few more slides. Then we'll call quits to the podcast because I think this is all encapsulating for what we want to do today. When we come back, that's when we finish the chapter on the canines. Now, this is very, very important. If we have a look at the next slide, Jack 61, what I didn't realize was that Earl Avery was part of the pre-trial. I hadn't even realized that, right? So we've got, now wait for it, Tom Fallon questioning Earl Avery. Andy B, are you still there?
Yeah, I am.
Would you like to read out Tom Fallon's part, which is the question? And
yes.
Cherie, would you like to read out the answer, which is Earl Avery? Are you guys okay for this?
Yes.
Can you see the slide?
Yes.
All right.
Sure. What's the slide number?
Slide number is T1. It should be on YouTube. You see it where it goes, all right? Can you see it?
Yeah, I've got it, yeah.
Let's go for it, guys. So this is Tom Fallon questioning Earl Avery, who was there that morning. Let's go for it.
Question, all right. Do you have more than one person come to the yard? Did you have more than one person come to the yard that morning?
Yes.
Tell us about that. You had someone come?
Yeah, at first I had two people come. I don't know what time it was, but there was a man and a lady there that asked if they could take a ride through the yard just to take a look. And I told them, go ahead. I'm more than willing to help you guys out.
Did they give you anything to hang up in the office?
Yeah, they gave me a poster or something to hang up in the office. Actually, they asked me if they could hang it up, and I said yes.
Okay, we solved the mystery. We solved the mystery of the poster in the office. It was a man and a lady who came in before Pam Sturm.
David Beach, right?
No. This is not David Beach. This is on the morning of the 5th.
Oh,
they had a poster on the 5th.
Gotcha.
Right? David Beach came on the 4th when he spoke with Stephen in the office, and
Right.
they asked him, "Did you hand any literature?" And he goes, "No." And so this couple, we don't even know who they are. A man and a woman came on that morning and they searched the yard. Isn't that incredible? And they hung up the poster. Earl didn't say nothing.
You know, Doc, I'm wondering if we have a DCI report because they did pretty extensive canvas. I'm gonna look, or maybe yours will know. I'll ask him.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And let me tell you this. Earl said he never saw them leave. Isn't that interesting? He never saw them leave.
That's interesting.
Andy B and Cherie, you want to continue? This is Earl Avery and Tom Fallon.
Question. Okay, now, did you have other visitors that had come that morning expressing an interest in Teresa Halbach's whereabouts?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I was outside with a neighbor, talking to a neighbor outside, and they came up to me and they asked me, there were two ladies, maybe it was about 45 minutes after.
After the first group?
Yes.
Boom. That's Pam and Nicole. Because remember when Earl said, "Oh, look, there were searches before you guys," right? Yeah, but yeah, go ahead and search. So notice they were the second team, so to speak, that came in wanting to search the yard. So you had this man and woman come in first, then 45 minutes later, Pam and Nicole come in. Jack 61.
Yeah. If I've read this, I've completely forgotten it. I really didn't. There's nothing there. So this is really interesting.
Isn't that amazing what you
It
pick
is.
up?
It is.
Is that
Well,
the anonymous tip?
Oh, look, isn't that amazing? How about if that was the anonymous tip?
got possibilities all over it.
Oh, Jesus, because Earl said, I never saw them leave.
Yep.
So imagine if they were directed to go there or whatever, and they go, Mr. Pagel, Sheriff Pagel, I think I found the RAV4. And
That's
then
right.
you got the five women who found the same thing. Oh no. So can you see how this is now starting to all pan out? Because this now fits with the change in plans, right?
It does.
Time-wise.
It does. Yeah.
Time-wise, it fits, right? But wait for it. Let's have a look at the next slide, Jack 61. Again, this is pay close attention to this one because this is Fallon talking to Earl Avery. You ready, Andy B and Cherie?
Yep.
Okay, let's go for it.
Okay, now were you surprised when they found this Toyota RAV4 that appeared to be Teresa Halbach's vehicle?
Yes, I was.
And did you even have any idea like that vehicle was there?
No, and I didn't. After I went down there to see what was going on, I still didn't know that it was down there. I still couldn't see it.
All right.
I was down there for an hour until they pointed it out to me. Then I finally seen it.
All right, you had no idea that vehicle was there?
No, it was like 2 days or 3 days before that. We were just through there rabbit hunting with my brother-in-law, and that vehicle wasn't there.
Notice what Earl said. He goes, we were down there. We went through that place. We never saw the RAV. Now, are you trying to tell me that Earl, who works there, wouldn't have spotted the RAV4, the new RAV4, new condition RAV4 amongst junk vehicles? Jack 61.
He definitely would have known.
Absolutely. I agree with Susan. And let's not forget, I'm going to bet you about it again. There were 3 tapes of an interview of November 9th of Earl Avery, and there's at least an hour of it that got redacted, gone, and they will not give me a clean copy.
You know why? You know why? This is damning. This is damning, guys. What Earl said now absolutely complements what Pagel and Baldwin failed to see the RAV4. You know why? because it wasn't there. Earl said, I was there with my brother-in-law. We never saw a RAV. We were there. Jack 61.
That's exactly right. I do remember this part.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue, guys. We're nearly done.
Question? Okay. Now, Mr. Avery, a couple last questions. Originally, on that Saturday afternoon, after the police officers started showing up, I think one of them indicated that you may have drove down on a four-wheel drive, a four-wheeler vehicle, to find out what was going on. Is that right?
Yes.
And you talked to one of the officers there.
Note what he says. Note what he says. Okay, Cherie.
I can't see it. It's on YouTube. I'm sorry.
Has to raise it up a bit. There we go.
Okay. Not at first. At first, they just told me to sit there. For about 45 minutes, I sat there. Then they came up to me, and then they were telling me what was going on.
What was going on? So they gave you a full debriefing then?
Somewhat, yes.
Oh my God. Guys, can you see what happened? So when Earl went down there with the four-wheeler, they told him not to come close to the RAV. He had to sit there for 45 minutes while they were checking out the RAV and the
What
VIN
the
number.
hell were they doing? It wouldn't have taken that long. That's bullshit.
And Earl is the owner of the property, and they told him, don't approach. Did you realize this? I never read this ever before.
I've read it, but it just didn't register. Just didn't.
Oh my God. So they told Earl, back away. He had to wait for 45. Yeah. So the question is, what were they doing for 45 minutes, guys? Huh? Andy?
Do you want me to carry on?
Yes. So we've got this is the final part of the interview. Pay close attention to what Fallon asks and what Earl responds. This would have sent shockwaves. If we can have a look at the next slide, Jack 61. Check this out, guys.
Okay, question. At some point, let me ask you this. At some point during your conversation with law enforcement, did they ask you if they had your continued permission to be there?
No, they didn't.
You don't recall?
No, they didn't.
Nothing else?
Fallon, nothing else? Holy shit!
Of course, nothing else. He's gonna run. He's gonna run from that.
Remica didn't seek permission to search the RAV. He didn't seek permission from the owner. He got caught out. What does bloody Fallon do? Nothing else. Guys, do we have any comments?
Tried to get him to say or agree that he didn't recall, so that would...
He didn't recall. He goes, no, they didn't. Right? So Remica illegally searched to confirm the VIN. He shouldn't have been on the property, right? Pam and Nicole asked permission, but Remica obviously didn't. The other police officers obviously didn't. Law enforcement officers didn't, because they told Earl to keep away for 45 minutes, right? So now the question is, was the search illegal? Yes or no? So if I want to ask people in chat and on the panel, if Remica wasn't given permission by Earl, who is a co-owner, and by the way, where the RAV4 was private property, was it an illegal search? Yes or no? Just tell me. Was it an illegal search? Yes or no? Andy B, what do you reckon? Earl never gave permission to Remica.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it. But if Pagel and Wiegert were supposed to be going there, I'm a little bit confused. I'll, I'll, I'll say it looks like no. It's
Okay.
an illegal search.
Cherie.
I'm a little confused too because was this before Pam had already found it and then
Yeah.
and they
So
had probable cause, but go ahead.
So but they didn't have a search warrant. They didn't have a search warrant because they never confirmed the VIN. So it's obviously that Wiegert phoned up Remica and said, get the fuck down there and check out that car. Is it Teresa's vehicle or not? Except Remica somehow found Pam Sturm and he checked the VIN by using a torch, but he never asked Earl whether he could search the property. You understand? He never got permission.
Okay. Yep.
So what do you reckon?
Then it wouldn't be legal.
Yep, correct. Susan, what about yourself?
Was it Orth that arrived first?
There was Orth, and Herman.
And did they get permission to go in?
No, because that's why Fallon asked, did you talk to the officers? And he goes, not at first. They told me to stand still.
So and how the hell did they know? How'd they know where to go, right? When they got there.
No idea. Did Pam Sturm put up a flare? Shoot up a flare? I'm here. Oh, this is getting worse and worse.
Look for the Mexicans.
Look for the Mexicans. Jack 61, legal or illegal?
Well, there are questions, and I actually talked to Tracy Struncy about this, and she first said no, it wasn't illegal, but then she came back and quantified that a little more, and she said she's forgotten a lot of constitutional law, and I said, well, I know exigent circumstances could get them around a search warrant, but they didn't open it. They didn't open it right then. They didn't open it for a day.
They didn't have the search warrant. They didn't have it then.
That's right, and they didn't. They didn't come along and say, "Well, we got to get in this thing right now." That would have, to me, that would have justified everything they did, but they didn't do that.
Right.
So
you see, here's the problem. Here's the problem, though, Jack 61. They weren't able to confirm the VIN, right? In situ.
Right. That's right.
Right. They had to get Remica to come in and confirm the VIN, right? And he said that the VIN looked like it had been tampered with. Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Tracy went on to say she's forgotten a lot of constitutional law, but I'd like to ask. I'd like to ask Travis next time.
Yes.
Actually, I need to send him a DM or a message and ask him what his opinion of this, because I'd really like to know.
Yes. And thank you, Jack 61. Neverly, legal or illegal search?
Without knowing the law, it sure sounds that it was illegal. It would have been illegal. But as I said, just like to the extent of my knowledge.
Yes. I would have thought it was illegal, right? Because he never asked permission to search, right? Unlike what and remember what Wiegert said. Where are you? I'm on the Avery salvage yard. Did you get permission? So Wiegert knew you had to get permission, right? You can't play dumb and Neverly.
No, that's a good point, because see, what they emphasize in that call is so telling. Where are you? Did you get a permission? Does it have license plate? What color? What's the VIN?
Correct.
Don't touch it. Everything. They checked every single box. Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. I've got a couple of more slides and we'll finish it. But Jack 61, are we able to look at the next slide, please? Now, you've all heard about ChatGPT, right? Very, very powerful AI bot. I just asked ChatGPT. I said, all right, under what circumstances would a search warrant be illegal or invalid? And it gave me this response, right? Now, I'm not going to read it all out, but I'm just going to highlight, and don't worry, I checked other legal documents, and they said exactly the same thing. So a search warrant to search a property is illegal or invalid under the following circumstances: either a lack of a probable cause, insufficient specificity, misrepresentation or omission of facts. Any red flags going up already? Defective authorization. And the last one, violation of constitutional rights. Neverly, are you able to read the last one out? Point number 5. Can you see it?
Sure. Yes. Point number 5, violation of constitutional rights. The execution of a search warrant must comply with constitutional protections, such as the Fourth Amendment in the United States, which guards against unreasonable searches and seizures. If the warrant or its execution violates these constitutional rights, it may be deemed illegal.
Isn't that interesting, right? So, of course, have a look. If we have a look at the next slide, Buting's no dummy, right? He knew that something was not right, right? So he put up a motion, which I called the Frank's motion. Susan, do you see the slide?
Yes, Doc.
Can you read it out? And this is what Buting presented in the pre-trial in front of the judge. Let's go for it.
Sure. The case of Franks versus Delaware says that if an individual who applies for a search warrant, that is, the affiant, in this case, Investigator Wiegert, provides false information intentionally or with reckless disregard for the truth, and that information was necessary to establish probable cause, then the Fourth Amendment requires that a hearing be conducted. If, at the hearing, it's proved that the false information was presented intentionally or with reckless disregard for the truth, then what the court does is set aside that portion of the affidavit and looks to the remainder of the affidavit to see whether probable cause exists.
Oh,
Wow.
So you know what Buting was trying to do? Buting was trying to say the search was illegal, which means you cannot present the RAV4 or the blood evidence inside the RAV4 because it was searched illegally. Now, guys,
Yeah,
would you admit
he's saying
that's
there was a
correct?
lie there that they got the full VIN number
Yeah,
from Pam.
correct, and the color.
and
Could
the
you
color. Yeah.
imagine if the judge says, Mr. Buting, I agree with you. You cannot present the RAV4 or its content as evidence in this case. Guys, what's going to happen?
Done.
What's going to happen?
Their case falls apart. They're screwed.
What did Judge Duffin say about Brendan Dassey's confession? It was
Coerced.
coerced, which means you can't use that confession until Brad Schimmel went against it. But guys, can you see how serious this is, right? So Jack 61, can we have a look at the next slide? Get ready to be to throw up. Of course. The judge heard all the arguments, and Tom Fallon, he complained 24/7. Oh no, judge, you can't have this, you can't have that, etc., right? Because that's their case. You can't have
Anybody
the
else?
RAV4. Susan.
I was just going to say, does anybody else think the judge looks stoned in that picture?
Yeah, that's about right. So Tom Fallon argued a lot. Okay. Neville, you want to read out the results of the last poll, please?
Sure thing. How did the RAV4 get onto the salvage yard in the pit area? A, unknown party from quarry, 17%. B, Steve and Brandon drove it there, 4%. C, Ryan with assistance from law enforcement, 39%, and law enforcement, 39%.
Ah, very, very
I
interesting.
see we have some guilters with us.
I
I
see.
think,
Yeah,
I think,
4%.
I think we do. Yeah, very interesting. So this is what the judge responded. Neverly, would you do the honors and read out what Judge Willis said to the Frank's motion? Get ready for it. Get ready for it.
Sure. If
Oh, can you see it?
just give me 1 second, please.
This is slide T7.
Yes.
Let's go for it. This is the judge.
Okay. While Detective Remiker's entry on the property may not have been authorized by an owner or person in control of the property, there is no evidence to suggest that the defendant had any ownership interest or other expectation in the area upon which the vehicle was located or the vehicle itself. What?
In other words, Stephen had no authorization or ownership of where the RAV4 was.
There's a legal, and I can't explain it because I'm not a lawyer, but there's a legal thing called having standing within the court or within, so he's using that against Stephen because he's saying he has no right to say that that RAV couldn't be searched. But they're not necessarily talking about Stephen itself. They're talking about searching it, period. And he's, God damn it.
Yeah, and have a look what he says. Keep going, Neverly.
Thus, the information provided by Detective Remiker is also appropriately included in the affidavit. With all of this information included, there is no question but that the affidavit was sufficient to justify the issuance of the November 5, 2005 search warrant.
Boom.
This is all like contradicting. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
So the judge is saying, hey, there's no problems. So what if if Remiker was there illegally? There's no problems.
And made mistake, and there's mistakes in the warrant itself.
Correct. Made no difference. So the judge said, yep, we allow it, which means that the search warrant was valid, searching the RAV4 was valid, and Stephen Avery could do nothing about it at all. Guys, are you blown away? Yes or no?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm not a lawyer again, but I just wonder if that point in time, if Buting and String had an option to appeal this to higher courts, halt whatever they're at that point, and say, look, we're going to appeal this.
Well, why doesn't Nyrider and Drizzen do this?
Yeah.
Because it affects their client.
Absolutely.
It affects their client, right? But let's have a look at this at the next slide. Now, this goes to show the insanity of what the judge said, right? Have a look at this. Now, Stephen lives in the trailer shown by the yellow arrow. That's where Stephen lives, right up there. He actually doesn't live, now wait for it, he actually doesn't live on the Avery salvage yard because the area of land that he lives on is owned by Roland Johnson, right? And he's sort of like renting, or he in fact, it was Jody.
Yeah.
Jody was renting and Stephen was living there as well. Now, have a look at where the RAV4 was found. Now, isn't this amazing and rather surprising how the RAV4 happened to be found, and the judge even said it, at the opposite end of where Stephen lives, near the berm, right on the periphery. So the judge is saying, hey, Stephen can't claim ownership or any type of rights to that RAV4. Look where it is. It's nowhere near his house. So wait, are you trying to tell me that if Stephen had committed this murder, the best thing that Stephen could have done was keep the RAV in his garage and keep the garage locked. Because therefore, Remiker could not search for the RAV. Is that correct? Yes or no? Because that's under his umbrage, the garage. So potentially he could have locked the RAV in the garage and say, no one can search here. This is mine. What about it, guys? Is that true?
Yes, that's true.
It is
so.
true.
I think so.
It is true.
They didn't have probable. They didn't have probable cause.
Oh, yep. So Pam Sturm would have come on and said, I don't see any RAV.
Right.
Therefore, they had no probable cause to do a search warrant. The flyover said, I didn't see any RAV. So they couldn't have come onto the property if Stephen had kept the RAV4 in his garage and potentially could have dismantled it piece by piece and got rid of it. No. What does Stephen do? And Brendan? They drive it out in the sunshine and leave it there that anyone can find. Susan.
So the search warrant that they got to search the entire property, including Stephen's trailer, garage, everything.
Yeah.
I guess their only probable cause was that Teresa was there that morning.
Well, you know what's incredible? Fallon even said that Stephen could have challenged the searches of his garage and house. He could have challenged it. But you know what Fallon said to Buting? Put Stephen on the stand and let him argue it.
Yep, that's what they wanted.
How clever was that?
Yeah,
wow.
That's what they wanted, because they could have introduced anything in his past. Anything.
Correct. See how these bastards work? Oh, yeah, he could actually contest them going into his house and garage, but we need Stephen to testify. Isn't that amazing? So the judge said, nothing to answer here. Even though Remiker was on there illegally, even though Wiegert and Remiker made mistakes in the search warrant, nothing to see, everything stands, the RAV is seized, forensic evidence is found, boom, Stephen is gone. Same with Brenton.
Make Earl sit there for 45 fucking minutes. I really want that. I really want that unedited November 9th interview of Earl Avery. What did they say to him? It's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. I've tried 3 times to get this thing, and I got the three original copies from the DOJ. Half of tape 2, the first side A, tape 2 is gone. There's nothing on side B, tape 2. Tape 3 is completely blank, both sides. So that tells me there's probably at least an hour missing.
Yep. Correct. So, this is truly remarkable. And Fallon was driving the whole show, right? So think about it. If those 5 women came onto the property and they found the RAV and they weren't given permission, then quite clearly there's going to be trouble. That's why they disappear. Now, the couple that come in first that were given permission by Earl, he never saw them leave. How about if they drove out the back way, Jack 61 panel? How about if they spotted the RAV and called Pagel, and then we have the change in plans?
Well, they could have easily done it. There's at least 3 other exits back there, maybe 4.
Yeah.
They could have driven right off.
Yes, right? So again, something happened from November the 4th to November the 5th. But can you see how the judge blocked the Frank's motion by saying, no, even though there's errors, even though Remiker had no permission, I'm going to still allow it to stand. Boom. All right, guys. Jack 61, I've got just a couple of more slides and then we can be done for today. I don't think my blood pressure can take any more. But if we have a look at the next slide, there's only a couple of more slides and then we're done. what's amazing were these were the maps that were in evidence, right?
Give me just a second. I have to switch out, Doc. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah, no worries. It's called map 1. We got 3 maps.
Yeah.
Now remember, Ryan Hilligus.
I listed those separately.
Yeah, no hassles. No hassles. Ryan Hilligus said he gave Pam Sturm just a plain map with no details. But clearly, law enforcement or somebody was obviously taking a lot of note of the Avery salvage yard, because wait till I show you these maps, right? So quite clearly, they had high resolution maps of the entire area, right? Now, I don't know if we have a look at map number 1. Guys, would this be regarded as a map, a picture taken from an helicopter, aeroplane, or is this a satellite map? What is it, guys? Because this is fairly high up.
Looks like satellite to me.
Well, and, we also have to consider that they had the Air National Guard that was up there. They took a lot of photos.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, you would have to be fairly high up. You have to be fairly high up here, right? Yeah. So quite clearly, they had high resolution images of the salvage yard, right? And you can see it, and you can also see Cuss Road. You can see all the surrounding properties, everything. But according to Ryan, the map he gave Pam Sturm was just a plain, simple one. So let's have a look at map number 2 at Jack 61. Now, this is interesting because in map 2, they actually have grids and they've got numbers. And this is the map that shows Avery Road. Remember what Pam Sturm said? Oh, it just showed Avery Road on there. Susan.
No, go ahead.
We're all good? So isn't this interesting that now this map is gridded out into finer detail? You just wonder what the hell was going on. But the final map, Jack 61, now this is an interesting map. This will be the last slide for our podcast for today. Have a look at this. See all the red marks? Do these represent the areas that have been searched? And what isn't in red? What's the only thing that isn't in red?
Salvage yard.
The salvage yard. How do you work this one out?
Are you kidding me? Oh my God.
No. Have a look at this. Right. What did Ryan Hilligus say? Well, we know that Teresa was at the salvage yard, but I sent all the searchers around the salvage yard, not to the salvage yard. And lo and behold, there's a map showing all the red grids, and the only thing that isn't in red is the salvage yard. Jack 61.
Makes absolutely no sense at all. No sense at all.
How do you work that one out? Has anyone got any comments?
I don't know. How do you work this out? I mean, I just don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah. Yeah. So they must have, like I said, done grids and colored in red the areas that have been searched and nothing has been found. Right? Because remember, none of Ryan's searches found anything. The only person who found something is Pam Sturm and Nicole, the RAV. Everything else came up negative. And isn't this bizarre how you've got this map with all this information on it, and the only thing that's not in red is the salvage yard? Amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right. Do we have any comments, guys? Do we have anything in chat?
I haven't seen anything in chat. And for the polls, this last one that I did, you had 8 different options listed, Doc. I can only do 4 at a time, so we'll save that poll, and the next broadcast we'll continue on.
Fantastic. Well, look, guys, that's all I have for today. I don't want to continue anymore. I think this all encompassing. Guys, what did you think of the podcast? What we've dug up? What did you think?
Fantastic. Absolutely.
Really good, Doc. Really good.
I
Yep.
think it clearly shows malfeasance. I think that the regular line officers had no idea. I think Remaker got used,
Yeah.
abused, and used. And then I hear he's coming in this pretrial section, and they're trying to trip up. I'll say trip up. They're trying to make excuses for what they did.
Yeah.
And Willis just says, "Oh, it doesn't matter. He made mistakes
It
in
doesn't
his
matter.
affidavit.
It
It don't
doesn't
make no
matter.
fucking difference. Yeah, it's fine, guys. Stephen Avery has no standing. Well, what about Earl and Chuck
No.
and
None.
Alan? They have standing
No.
about what gets searched on that fucking property. They should."
Correct. And they even said, and they made it obvious, he goes, anything that's on the other side of Chuck is private property. Private property. In other words, if you want a car part, you come to the office, we give you permission to go out and find the car park. You can't just drive in.
Right.
And yet, Remaker, Orth, Herman just drove straight in. We get
there was another officer. Yeah, there was another officer too, Doc, and I can't think of his name. Go ahead.
Yeah, they just all drove in. So somehow they knew Pam Sturm was down there, right?
Yeah, sure they did. Sure.
It truly is. I think, guys, what we've done is we've demonstrated they got caught out. They got caught out. Now, what was that? What was the name of the judge in the Murdoch trial? Neville, do you remember the judge? Now, remember him?
Newman, something.
Yeah.
Newman, Judge Newman.
Imagine if
Stephen
he
Newman.
was the judge in the Stephen Avery case and they presented the Franks motion to him. He would have tossed it out. He would have tossed out the RAF.
Yeah.
He would have tossed out the RAF unless Wisconsin has a special law. Neville.
I read it over and over again, right? And just the way Willis gave his explanation and his ruling, it was just bizarre because he does admit that Remaker's presence over there
Was
illegal.
But
then he mentioned something about Stephen. I don't know what that means, if there's a law about that. And then it says, but it was appropriately noted in the search warrant, like application. It's like, what? Well, he was there illegally, so you should dismiss that part too. So on what basis did you actually grant this?
Because Stephen lived in the other corner. If Stephen lived right next to the RAV, where the RAV was, he could have had claim, no, that's an illegal search. But because Stephen lived in the other far corner, he had no interest in where the RAF was, which meant it could be searched. Right? Exactly. So the judge allowed it. I don't recall.
I think what the judge is saying, and I think it's BS. If it's illegal, it's illegal to me. I mean, he shouldn't have been searching there, so they shouldn't use it. But if it had been Earl or whoever owns that property, is it Earl and Chuck? If it would have been trying to use it against either one of them, then it would be, they couldn't use it against either one of them if it was illegal. But, I guess it's like Jack said, Stephen doesn't have standing because he didn't own the property.
That's right. That's exactly right. They even asked Earl, well, is he a co-owner? No. Does he work there? No, he just gives us a hand. So therefore, Stephen being on that property was inconsequential to the searching of the RAV. Even though Remaker should have never been there. He should have asked permission. And Earl would have put two and two together. Wait a minute. You've got all these searches coming down here, and all of a sudden the police show up? What's going on? That's why Earl went down there. And they told Earl, you stay on that four-wheeler, don't come any closer. Right? And Fallon even said, did you talk to the officers? Well, not immediately. Did you give them permission? No, I didn't. And yet somehow the judge, all legal. All right, guys. Well, look, this has been a pretty mind-blowing podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. But it goes to show that here at the Foul Play team, we don't just spend 5 minutes. We deep dive. And as you can see, it's not us. It's their own words, their own documents, their own pictures, their own photographs, you can see that something is not right, right? Pam Sturm said the power of God. I don't believe so. I believe she was used by law enforcement for an objective. Find the RAV, call it in, we do the rest. And it's as simple as that. No Holy Spirit. All right. Well, look, guys, if you have enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share our podcast if you can. That'll be awesome. Well, look, guys, I'd like to go around the panel quickly. Tell us how you're coming along and how things happening with you. I'd like to invite Jack 61. How things coming along?
All doing very well, Doc. I've well, like other, a few other, or actually several other people, I've got open records requests I'm still trying to obtain, and it's taking an absolute nightmare amount of time. That these are simple requests. There's nothing hard about them. So I've been working on that. As I mentioned prior, and I'm going to say this to give them a little airtime, because I think it's important that we consider everyone that's involved in this true crime, for whatever reason that they're in it,
Yes.
community. I joined a Facebook group, and it's got guilters and truthers in it both.
Oh, no. It's
yeah,
not going to be
several
good.
Well, they're entitled to their opinion, I guess, and it is what it is. But I've been making some posting there. There's a few others of us that I know that are in that group as well, and I'm asking serious questions. And one of the latest ones was about the blunt and bloody instrument in the back of the RAV, and some of the
Yes.
responses have been they've been interesting. I can tell you that. But my question was, if anyone can really explain it to me, I'll drop it. If they can give me
Yeah.
a real reply, I will drop it and I will apologize. But I haven't gotten one yet. I've gotten a lot of excuses.
Yes.
One of the more interesting one was, well, the police, the cops took it. Number one, the cops didn't find it. It was Steve Harrington at the crime lab. He's the one that fucking found it. That's number one. Pardon my French. But number one, they said, well, the cops took it. It got tested. They didn't find anything, so they didn't have to enter it. Well, that's bullcrap. That's
My
absolutely
God.
wrong. It's wrong. And for people to try to justify and derail a serious conversation about, two guys that are locked up. And listen, this could be two people anywhere. I don't know Stephen. I don't know
Correct.
Brendan. I don't know
Yeah.
them. This is about what's right and what's wrong
Correct.
at the end of the day. So, been fooling around with that. And there's been some other, drama and business going on. But let's talk about tomorrow. So tomorrow we're going back to the dispatch calls. I'd actually forgotten about. There's another several CDs that we got of
Yes.
miscellaneous calls. Now there's going to be some repeats of what we've already covered, and it is what it is. But there's some calls in there that we didn't necessarily cover that I've already been through. So I'm going to start that process. It's going to be a multi-part series again. These are miscellaneous calls that came into Manitowoc that we got last year in 2022. That's starting tomorrow, 5 o'clock.
Awesome.
Central
Thank
Time.
you so much, Jack 61.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Jack 61. Awesome. Next we have Andy B. Andy B, you still there?
I am.
What time is it where you are?
It's 2 o'clock in the morning.
2 in the morning.
Early yet?
Yeah.
Oh, surely you've got some more slides, please.
Correct. How are things happening with you?
Oh, everything's fine. Like, it was another good podcast. I'm just trying to remember what time was the Renica and Herman call on. Was it the morning of the 5th? Was it about 9:30 or something in the morning?
Between Wiegert and Remica?
No, the other one, the earlier one. Remica and Herman.
Oh, where he's talking about Singlub the night before, saying that Singlove
Yeah.
calls him all the time and irritates him. That
That's
was
right.
at like
It was
you guys
early, I
talk.
think.
Yeah, it was. You guys talking, I'll find it.
Yeah, I think it was fairly early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Continue, Andy B.
So some interesting information. I hadn't realised about Remica being on the salvage yard with the VIN number. So that was a nice piece of information. Other than that, all's well here, and it's just a normal week. So thank you, everyone, and good night.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Andy B. And thank you for being on the panel.
I found
Next
it,
we
Doc.
have
Doc and
yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's that call was at it's Remiker talking to Todd Herman about Singlove and Avery, Scott B, and George Zipper, and that call was at 8:17 a.m. that morning. That's before he talked to Wiegert. Interesting.
Isn't that interesting? And who ends up on the salvage yard? Tom Herman. Todd.
Yep.
Todd, he's there as well.
Yep.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Jack61. Next we have I Don't Recall. How things coming along?
Good. Mind blown with all the revelations. That, at least for me, there was a lot of things, or several things that I didn't know before, and connections I hadn't made. So thank you.
Not at all. Thank you.
And since Rhonda's not here, I believe we're planning the podcast, Thursday night's podcast, and to continue with Tabitha Barnes, one of the accusers. So should be a good one.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much. I don't recall. And thank you for reading as well. Next we have Susan. How are you coming along?
Great, Doc. It was great bringing out that pre-trial testimony. It's been a long time since I've looked at that, and there's so much in this case that things go right past you, and so yeah, there's some great stuff in there. So thanks for all your hard work.
No, not at all. Thank you. Thank you very much, Susan. Thank you. And finally, we have Neverly. Neverly, how's it coming along?
Hello, Dr. Silkman. All is well. I really enjoyed this podcast. And what still doesn't sit well with me and my head is spinning is the fact that Pam did not go search for her cousin or whatever, for Teresa and the car around Stephen's residence.
That's very interesting. That is very interesting.
That to me is just like mind-boggling.
Yeah, considering that Stephen was the last person.
Yeah, and that she was there. Yeah, it just it's almost inexplicable.
Correct. You would have gone, well, where did Teresa go? Where did my cousin go? Let's start there. And it's very interesting because that's exactly where the cadaver dogs and scent dogs started.
Exactly.
Right? The scent dog started where Teresa went and where her RAV4 was located. They're the start point. Interesting that Pam never went to Stephen's trailer.
No.
She went straight.
That whole is an interesting thing. Yeah.
Yeah, she went straight to the RAV4. Yeah, keep going,
Thank you so much. This was unbelievable. You rocked on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Awesome. Well, look, guys, unless there are any additional comments, thank you so much for rolling up, guys. It's been fantastic. Again, great responses. And thank you for filling in those polls. They're very, it looks like the aliens are winning at this stage, right, Jack61? Right, guys? The aliens are winning.
Absolutely.
They're winning. When they get more votes than the other responses, we know we're in trouble, right? Well, look, guys, thank you so much. And we will see you all tomorrow for the open mic. Thank you, guys. Take care.
And this has been a Foul Play production.